everybody, and welcome to what is a beautiful setting for anything, particularly for motor racing. We are at VIRginia International Raceway, a circuit that was saved by the current management group and brought back so that we can enjoy the fantastic racing that it always produces. In the Hackney Global Broadcast Centre, as the drivers are on their first formation lap, it's John Hindhoff and Jeremy Shaw with Shea Adam as our VP Racing Fuel pit and paddock reporter. Robbie Foley capturing pole position for Turner Motorsport after some problems for them, and Tommy Milner getting his first pole position for Corvette. It's just the GTs here, just over 3.25 miles, 17 corners, and uphill and down dale. Well, sort of, up to the southern end of the circuit, being up in altitude, and then back down to the start-finish line. Plenty of action areas, notably the braking area at turn 1, that long sweeping entrance to turn 1 down the front straight. Long, fast run from Oak Tree corner, no Oak Tree there anymore at turn 12, but down to the top of the roller coaster at turn 14. And then an action area for perhaps the wrong reasons. If you overcook turn 17, the hog pen, you're in real problems because there's an awful lot of greenery there. One of our Porsche keys to the race. Grass slippery, track grippy. What do you want? You want trophies, so stay off the green. Jeremy Shaw alongside me here in the Hackney Global Broadcast Centre. Fantastic first pole position in Corvette colours this weekend for Tommy Milner.
Yeah, just thrilled for Tommy. I mean, he's just a really, really good guy. As he said, this is his home state track. He lives, if he can do it in 4 hours, he's doing well. He certainly beats Google Maps by well over half an hour. No surprise there.
Probably not best not to mention that.
Exactly. So, but yeah, like I said, lovely guy. He's worked so hard. He's come so close so many times in the past. As Shane was saying, this is his 83rd start. He hasn't qualified the car in those races, far from it. But he's had success here in the past. He talked about having his first pole here, had his first win here as well back in the Rolex GT days, driving for his father in the PTG BMW. But now looking to get another. And he also had success here when he won here for Corvette racing in 2012 and clinched the championship with Oliver Gavin that weekend. So a lot of good history here for Tommy Milner.
It's not been plain sailing, Shea, for the team that find themselves on pole position in GT Daytona. They've pretty much missed a full session, but Bill Oberlin and Robbie Foley and Turner Motorsport bounce back and capture pole position for GT Daytona in the number 96 BMW.
Starting this race today exactly where they left off last year, that would be at the head of the GTD field. This was the site of Bill Oberlin's record-tying win here in 2020. Robbie Foley and Bill Oberlin, they would have liked that little bit of extra track time that they lost yesterday from the coolant leak, but they're happy enough to start off on pole, and they have a very fast BMW M6 GT3 in the dry. They're just hoping it stays dry.
Yeah, that car suffered a little bit of a coolant problem, which is why it missed that session early on. We've got some fast cars coming through from the back of the grid. We've got a particularly fast and quiet car at the front of the grid as well. For the first time in IMSA competition history, pacing the field to the green flag is the Porsche Takan Turbo S, over 700 horsepower, electrically brought to all four wheels of that car. I drove on at Daytona a couple of years ago. It has the lowest centre of gravity of any Porsche and the lowest CD as well, the lowest drag coefficient. It is a proper Porsche. It just happens to be powered by something other than an internal combustion engine. There is a Porsche with an internal combustion engine at the back of the field with the problems that the number 9 FAF car had. Zachary Robichon will start nearer the back than he was expecting. They went off and had their times disallowed from qualifying after unauthorised work in the pit lane. Trent Hinman joins him at the back as well in the right Porsche. That's the teal number 16. That's another very quick car. That car failed ride height. They had enough and something was left dangling down. And the Aston Martin Vantage GT3 of Ian James, their rear wing was out of compliance on the 27 Heart of Racing car. Watch for those three coming through from the back. But for now, it's all eyes on the front of the field. 2 hours and 40 minutes on the clock for the Michelin GT Challenge at VIR. Lovely start. Oh, was there just somebody out the line there? Looked like the Audi might have been moving across. Bibendum waves the green flag and the Corvette train runs down to the first corner. Here comes Robbie Foley up the inside. Somebody's forgotten to tell Robbie he's only a GTD car. He's up into third overall. That's great news for the GTD pole sitter. Trying to follow him through there. One of the championship contenders, Madison Snow, in the Lamborghini Huracan, the car that wears number 1. So an excellent start from Foley in the liquid body car as they come through towards the bottom of the snake, turn 5, 6, 7, heading up to the climbing S's for the first time. Super start by both of the Corvettes, and Cooper McNeil typically does take a lap or two to get the heat in his Michelin tyres, but watch out for that WeatherTech car coming back. The battles are further down the field, but a cracking start, Jeremy Shaw, from Robbie Foley.
Brilliant start by Robbie Foley. He already put a fair gap between himself and not only the WeatherTech Porsche, but particularly Madison Snow's Lamborghini. Behind Madison, however, there's a huge long trail of GTD cars, and that is going to be the battle we're going to see all the way through this race. But as you say, a brilliant start by Robbie Foley.
Might not last out there in between the GT Le Mans cars, but he's put himself in the best possible position. Down the back straight, here comes the Heart of Racing 23. It's Roman De Angelis. This is the championship contending car. Having a look up the inside, then the outside of the number 14 Lexus. That's sitting just in front of him. So that's been a change of position there from how they started. 39's in there as well, Richard Highstand. That was the car that I thought might have just slightly been out of line. It's still wet offline, but everyone has gone as they are mandated on the tyres on which they qualified, which were slick tyres. So slick Michelin tyres that were used in qualifying. The choice to change was given, but you would have had to have given up your position and your points that you gained from qualifying. Jordan Taylor leads from Tommy Milner, 3 from 4 in the Corvettes, then that BMW, then Cooper McNeil in the 79 WeatherTech Porsche. Then it's this battle for second, third on down, which at the moment is headed by Madison Snow. So a change at the front. Jordan Taylor has got past the pole sitter and set off at the head of the field and pulled away, Jeremy, by 1.4 seconds.
Yeah, he has, and a really good start, certainly for Jordan Taylor there to get that jump on Tommy in those difficult conditions. We can see the track's pretty much dry, but there's certainly some damp spots out there, so there won't be a lot of grip. Well, we talked about earlier on, there's not a lot of grip when it's fully dry, and particularly it's damp like this. So a great start there for Jordan Taylor to move his, and he's going to try and make hay while the sun is shining, but he's certainly going to make hay out at the front of the field. Some movers in the GTD field though. Zachary Robichaud already up quite a few positions in number 9 car. He's up to the 9th position, right ahead of Trent Hinman.
Yeah, those two coming back through the field, having been relegated after those technical inspections post the qualifying runs yesterday. The cars firing through the field and have already made up a couple of 3 places apiece. Jordan Taylor sets the fastest lap in the early running. Keep an eye on that. The start was very, very slow, and it was a good jump off the line originally by the number 4 pole sitter Tommy Milner, but the number 3 yellow Corvette round the outside into turn 1 managed to cut back and just find a little more grip on the inside at the first time of asking at turn 1, and that's where the pass for the lead was made. Really nice, 2 very hard charges, but let's not forget they are teammates, and therefore, first rule, race as hard as you like, lads, just don't run into each other. And in the meantime, we have a GT Le Mans 1-2-3 again, Jeremy, as I suspected, the Porsche taking just a wee moment or two to get the Michelins up to temp and pressure. Cooper McNeil back up into 3rd position in the 79 WeatherTech Porsche 911, and has immediately put about a second and a half into Robbie Foley, who still leads GTD, of course.
He did, but I think as he went past there, he cost Robbie Foley a little bit of time. He was a couple of seconds ahead of Madison at the end of the first lap, so he lost a bit of ground on that last time around. He was, I think, probably, well, he did improve his lap time compared to his opening lap, but not by nearly as much as everybody else did. So good battle there for Richard Highstand, as that he was the fastest guy on track in GTD on that last lap. In the whoops, there's a spin for Frankie Calvo.
What did we say? Stay off the green, that's the slippery. And the number 7 on the side, as Jeremy says that is 7th in class, Frankie Montecalvo. Now, very careful application of the throttle to try and get that Lexus RCF GT3 back onto the track. It was at the top of the hill coming down the roller coaster, and he's got damage to the left-hand side at the front, straight into the pit lane, where Shea Adam, our VP Racing Fuel pit paddock reporter, is waiting. Shea?
First time that we've seen a Lexus go off at that part of the track, John, and then cut back across into the pit lane. Need to make sure he had a legal entry to the pit lane as well. A lot of damage to the bumper. It's hanging limply off, and they are going to change the tires while they've got Frankie in here. It's going to be a bit of a longer stop, though, and they are going to need some gaffer tape to try and hold that front bit of, well, what used to be bumper onto the car. But a bad start for the number 12 Lexus.
Yeah, that number 12 car, I think I said 14, my apologies. It was indeed the number 12. The team is going to work, but as she rightly reports there, it is not going to be the work of a moment. Almost feel as though it might have been better putting a new front clip on that, but they've assessed that. They're spraying it to get the dirt away from it, so the gaffer's tape will stick. The race tape will stick. Meantime, the team car, the number 14, Aaron Telitz, has Roman DeAngelis on his tailpipe, and he's sitting right in behind the Madison Snow-driven Lamborghini Huracan. That's 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and in 5th position, actually, is Michael de Quesada, who is not that far away. Also looking down, where's the Audi gone? Richard Highstand's gone through into 2nd, hasn't he? Yes, he has. Highstand through into 2nd position, whilst we were checking on that Lexus in the pit lane. So Highstand 2nd now, Madison Snow 3rd, and the fastest lap last time around by Richard Highstand. Early running here with just 2.5 hours still to go. Just 2.5 hours still to go. And Richard Highstand, fastest man in GTD at the moment, Jeremy, and has closed down Robbie Foley. Looks like he is the man most likely in that 39 carbon Audi at the moment.
Indeed so. Each of the last 3 laps, actually, Richard Highstand has been the fastest car in GTD. There is number 12 car back on track, not yet up to speed as he negotiates turn 1. Let's have a look and see what... just lost it.
Turn
so
17.
Curious as to why that damage occurred. I've got to assume perhaps that he hit somebody before that, because I don't think there's any reason for that damage to be caused as he slid off the road.
Yeah, this is the number 12 car, which has now rejoined the Lexus RCF right at the back for Frank Montecalvo. It was not insubstantial damage on the front end of that car either, to be fair, so it looks like maybe he's run into the back or the side of someone, and the fact that they were changing the left front tyre as well suggests there was a bit of side-to-side contact. Maybe Frankie felt he was having a tyre issue, and the tyre was maybe going down, because that is the area just ahead of the front left wheel that is damaged on the bodywork. So he has returned, but has lost a lap to the GTD lead. Yes, he has. Just had to check that. So he is now a lap off his class leader, which is being held at the moment, that class lead, by the Little Molly Turner BMW and Robbie Fawley. Super qualifying by Robbie. Really put a great, I was going to say a lap together, but it was 2 or 3 very good laps together. But he's got his hands full now with Richard Highstat through the snake and up to the climbing S's, Jeremy. Fabulous piece of circuit.
Yeah, tremendous. And the skies, there's certainly some very threatening looking clouds at the moment, but it is drying. Lap times are improving at the front. Jordan Taylor going quicker with every lap so far, but behind him in second position, Colin Milner, he's been a little bit quicker on each of the last 3 laps. He's set the fastest lap of the race so far, 141.9. Last year's fastest lap, by the way, was by Nick Tandy, then of course driving a Porsche, and at 141.3. So good lap times already at the front of the field. Meanwhile, in GTD, as we can see, Richard Highstat putting the pressure on Robbie Fawley, and a little bit of a gap back to Madison Snow, Aaron Tielitz, and Roman DeAndres in the number 23 Aston Martin. He looks like he might feel he's a bit quicker than Tielitz at this stage. He was passed by Tielitz on the opening lap, but Roman DeAndres, he's got to be clever here at this stage, because he's got to look at the big picture. The big picture for that number 23 team right now is the GTD Sprint Cup Championship. They need to make sure 4th place is good for them. They're running 5th at the moment, but their main contender isn't winning. So where they are right now is just fine. Of course, they want to win the season-long championship as well. So there's a bit of a fine balancing out there for the 23 team, but it's got to be patient. There's no point in pushing the envelope there with number 14 of Tielitz and risking anything untoward.
Yeah, and that comes back to what we were talking about in our Porsche Keys to Race. It's all very well saying take each race as they come, Jeremy, but when you've got a championship trophy up for grabs, and potentially 2 championship trophies actually for that Heart of Racing Aston Martin Vantage GT3 team, then, you know, at this stage of the season, you'll take what you get. I think at this stage, when everything's so close, there's no need, as you say, it's that risk versus reward, isn't it? There's no need to be pushing it right now. You've got a couple of pit stops and 2.5 hours to go yet, and then you can decide what your strategy is going to be. And also look to see where the Lamborghini Huracan of Paul Miller Racing and the other contenders are.
Indeed so. That's exactly right. But clearly he's got the speed there. Look at the straight line speed advantage the Aston Martin had there, heading up toward the roller coaster. He got right up onto the tail of Aaron Tielitz, but not close enough to try and make a pass at the top of the hill. So he's going to tuck him behind him, heading down the hill now, down that roller coaster into Hogpen, that tricky final corner where Frankie Montecalvo spun off in the early stages of this race. And now competing lap 7, but it's a super battle between these two. And Roman DeAndres, he'd have been frustrated certainly to lose a couple of positions at the start, lost out to both the number 39 and the 14. But as you say, John, it's he's doing just fine where he is right now. The leaders aren't getting away either.
Correct.
That's the important thing.
That is another good point. And the pit will be telling him that as well. At IMSA Radio, if you'd like to get in touch. If you are moving around in the US, XM202 this weekend, you're outside the US and you're listening on RS2 on IMSA Radio at the moment. I would normally say this, but I'll happily let you tune away from the radio if you tune straight back to our streaming video. Outside the US, no interruptions. We go flag to flag with the IMSA Radio commentary, and that is on imsaradio.com on the live video tab. You'll find it very easily indeed. So, as I said, under 2.5 hours to go. Fastest lap of the race last time around in GTD is the plaid Porsche, sitting in behind Zachary Robichon, sitting behind the AMG, excuse me, of Michael de Quesada is Trent Hinman, who's gone past Zachary Robichon, Jeremy, on that last lap.
And they've been trading fastest laps the last few laps for the 2 Porsches. Once again, those Porsches are super fast, as they have been for the last 4 or 5 races. and they're moving their way up the order now, up into the 4th, 6th, 7th and 8th positions. Robichon and Hinman, as you say, right behind Michael De Quesada, who was hanging on to the tail end of that lead group in the GTD. He's only lost about a second and a half or so, so he's still pretty much right there. Really good job for Michael De Quesada. First time here, I think, at VIR. So doing a good job to stay ahead of these super fast Porsches at the moment. Meanwhile, out front, there's still the two Corvettes are running in lockstep, but only about a 3/4 of a second, so just a couple of car lengths between them at the front of the field. Cooper McNeil, he's out on his own in 3rd position, but then the super battle in GTD.
Yeah, the two Porsches coming through from the back after those post-qualifying tech infractions for the 16 car. That was at ride height. The number 9 car effectively didn't get a time set in qualifying, so they won no points and started all the way at the back, and that stayed at the back even when other people got put to the back. Shit.
They did get points, John. They actually did get points. They just scored 18 points, I believe, was the amount scored. The only car with 0 points was the 27 Heart of Racing Aston Martin, not involved in either of the championships because they elected to change their starting tires. That forfeits your points.
Copy. Okay, thank you. Shea Adam with that VP Racing Fuel Pit and paddock report. And whilst I've got you there, Shea, just a little note about minimum drive time in GT Le Mans that has passed.
Yes, that was only 10 minutes. So at any point in time, Porsche can pull the Kevin Estre ace up the sleeve and throw that into the WeatherTech car.
Okay, that's good. And for GT Daytona, minimum drive time is
45 minutes, so we still got about another half an hour before we'll see driver changes there.
Thank you, Shea.
Here comes Cooper.
And here comes Cooper McNeil. Now, 2 hours and 23 minutes to go, so that's 120, 143 minutes. It's 2 more stops from here, I'd reckon. That is. New set of Michelin tyres going on, Shea.
And the driver change nearing completion. Kevin Estre just working on finalizing his shoulder belts. Lap belts already completed. Has to get the right side shoulder belt in. There we go. They're not tightened yet, but they have completed everything else. Kevin firing the car back up. New Michelins are on, fueling is done, and Kevin is able to roll away. So Mr. Estre does need to pull down those shoulder belts. Thank you, Kevin, for listening to me once again. Make sure they're over the Hans device. Pull down the belts nice and tight. If those are not tight enough for race control's discretion, he's now out on the racetrack. They might be having a look at that onboard camera there, John.
Yeah, they can see it all the time. Looked like he'd forgotten which button to press there. He drives a lot of different Porsches, and there's some subtle differences between the GT3 and the GT Le Mans version of that car. Now that's dropped them down, and that means, of course, that they are on a completely different schedule for coming into the pits than that of the two Corvettes. But what I will say is that Kevin is an exceptionally fast driver, and we need to just keep an eye on that car now and work out how far away he's dropped from the leaders, and then see what happens when the two Corvettes come in for their stop, because that, as I say, is a very different strategy that is being played there, just to get the faster driver in as early as possible, Jeremy. And you know, a reasonable strategy, in fairness. We've seen it done before.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Cooper, with all due respect, he's not a factory driver. He's not going to be as fast as these other guys. He's the definition of a pro-am. Effectively, in my estimation, and therefore, if they want to win this race, they're going to get Kevin Estre in as soon as they possibly can. He still needs a full course caution. He's a long way back. He's shown us 49 seconds. He's a lot more than that, I was going to say. The good news is he's able to make that change, stay on the lead lap. So he's now going to pass all the GTD cars. So he's an awful lot of work to do. He really does need a full course caution to get himself back in the frame. If that comes sooner rather than later, then he's going to take an awful lot of beating, because that is the fastest car. It was the fastest car in the first 2 sessions, and we'll see what he can do. It's going to be an interesting strategic call, and certainly the right one for that competition WeatherTech racing team.
So keep an eye on that gap. Meantime, at the front of the field, the two Corvettes leading the motor race. No prototypes here. This is the Michelin GT Challenge at VIR. So it is front and centre for the Grand Tourers. Possibly no more Grand Tourer than the Corvette down through the years. And in its new C8 mid-engine format. New Z06, just saw some specs and some pictures of that recently. And that car set to be the challenger in street trim to the new 992 Porsche GT3, with probably 200 horsepower more than the flat six Porsche. Hearing that it's likely to be the 5.5 engine mounted amidships in that new Z06 for the C8. Can't wait to see that, and we are getting them with the steering wheel on the right hand side now, so my hand has gone up several times, but I'm still waiting to be called. But I do volunteer if one needs to be run in, shall we say, get a few miles on it. Yes, that's the sort of thing that I am absolutely up for. So the two Corvettes still leading as they come across the line in the battle for GT Daytona. Now for third and fourth position, there's about a second between Robbie Foley and Richard Highstand, with Madison Snow 0.3 of a second further back. He's close back in on the Audi in that Lamborghini number one, the red, white and black car. The silver on there as well. He's got about half a second on the first of the Lexus RCF GT3s of Aaron Telitz. Then it's Roman De Angelis for Aston Martin. And then it's the Mercedes of Michael De Quesada. So an early pit stop then for the WeatherTech car after the 10 minutes. And the bright orange racing helmet of Kevin Estre, the affable Frenchman. He's had a cracking season this year, and winning a lot of big races, including having his family at the Nürburgring 24, of course, this year. One there, spoke to him the week after that. He was very, very happy indeed. Clouds gathering, but still dry at the moment. 66 Fahrenheit on track. That's dropped by about 4 or 5 degrees since we started the race. And as soon as we get cloud cover and there's no sunlight and energy going onto the track surface, it's actually warmer in the air than it is on the track at the moment, and that's because of the thick cloud cover. But as yet, no spots of rain. Shea Adam has been monitoring things down at Corvette Racing. What do you have, Shea?
The two cars running nose to tail, about half a second separating Tommy Milner from Jordan Taylor. The team trying to figure out ways to split up the strategy between the two cars. They do this frequently week in and week out. Look for an early pit stop potentially from that number 4 Corvette to try and get Tommy Milner back out into a bit of clean air. But as you mentioned, the R word, it is in the air right now. Within 15 minutes, we could have a potential for moderate to light rain, and then more coming toward the end of the race.
It's dry at the moment. That's the cars you play. You just can't anticipate whilst it's still dry. That extra pit stop would be the end of your chances. So it's Shea Adam, our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock reporter. Jeremy Shaw is with me, John Hindhaugh in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. Good to see the two Corvettes out front, and they are racing. This is not a demonstration. Their team orders are, there are no team orders, just don't run into each other. We've changed the colours of the car now, Jeremy, so that if there is any swapping of paint, they can actually see it when they get back to the pits. When they were both bright yellow, of course, it was more difficult to tell. But these two are battling, and in fairness, Tommy Milner and Nick Tandy have been on a bit of a roll.
Yes, certainly have. Won the last 2 races, that pairing. So, they are on a roll and got the pole position today. A mistake at the first corner, of course, cost Tommy that pole position advantage here in this race, but he is the fastest car on the track. A couple of laps ago, 3 laps ago, Jordan Taylor reset his best lap of the race, but Tommy Milner went quicker again, so he still has the fastest lap, 1:41.929 now for Tommy Milner is the fastest lap of the race. Last time around, Jordan Taylor was within a tenth of a second of his best lap, just said a couple of laps ago, but he's still not able to pull away. But this super battle is going on back in GTD. We just saw at turn 1, that was Zeka Robichov finally sneaking past Michael De Quesada for the 5th position in the 6th position in GTD.
At the moment, number 16, Trent Hinman, looking at the back of the AMG. That teal blue car going up towards the top of the roller coaster. And big slide going through turn 10 South Bend last time around for Michael De Quesada. As the 28 car is really sliding around. I wonder if he's already slightly overheated those rear tyres. Light blue car. Meantime, a little bit further back, Ian James has got past Rob Ferriol. Ian James started at the back in the other Aston Martin, of course, Jeremy, which had the rear wing infraction, and now he's starting to make a little bit of ground, having got past the hardpoint Porsche.
Yeah, it took him a long time. Here is that number 4 car onto the pit lane. That's interesting.
Shea Adam, as predicted by you.
Yep, they wanted to be able to clear air, and being less than half a second from the team car was not doing. Let's see, I believe Tommy is staying aboard. Helmeted. He loves these kinds of conditions, does Nick? Winner of the 2015 Le Mans overall in the GT car. Well, this would be another overall GT win for Nick Tandy, and first one for Tommy Milner. Belts are completely done and tight. Thank you, Nick, for making sure you got the tug down on the shoulder straps well before the car gets rolling. Fuel nozzle comes out. 4 Michelin tires are on that car. 21 seconds stationary. Wow, that's an impressive pit stop from Corvette Racing.
It's a balancing act, that, to be honest, Shea, because they're going to do 4 tyres, they're going to do a driver change, so what they want to do is burn off enough VP Racing fuel, Jeremy, to make that worthwhile. What you don't want is to be sitting waiting whilst the tyres are going on, or the driver is bolting himself into the car. I would say that was about perfectly judged by the number 4 crew.
Yeah, I think committed though now to a 3-stop strategy, the same as number 79 car. So covering that, I'm sure Tommy probably felt he was faster than the number 3 cars. We see Trent Hinman trying to make a move around the outside of Michael De Quesada at turn 1. He was alongside in the braking area. De Quesada doing a nice job there to hold on to that position. No way room through there for Trent Hinman. But for Tommy, yeah, I'm sure he felt he was faster. So bring me in, put me in fresh air, so to speak, so I can try and make some ground for when Jordan Taylor finally makes the stop. As there a little bit later on that lap, Trent Hinman did get past Michael De Quesada, so now up into the 7th place.
It's 2 hours and 12 minutes still to go, and that blue Porsche then now having moved up a position. So Nick Tandy, and off for De Quesada. And he's done damage to the back of the car. That looked to me like turn 10, South Bend, on the run up towards the Uptree corner. And he was very lucky indeed there, Michael, that he managed to catch that car. At least the left rear Michelin was on the dirt for a moment, and the car pitched 45 degrees to the left. Definitely some bodywork or some diffuser coming out from underneath that AMG number 28. So let's see if he calls to the pit lane sometime soon. Shea Adams been analysing the pit stop for Corvette, Shea.
Just to give you an idea of how impressive that Corvette racing stop was, they were on the pit lane for a total of 43.2 seconds. That's from pit in to pit out. The 79 car, the Porsche, they were on the pit lane for 49.8 seconds. So that means 6 seconds gained for the number 4 Corvette, even though they had to take more fuel. Chapeau to that gray car.
Yeah, I think most of that was Kevin Estre not being able to get the car started, if I'm brutally honest. Kevin won't like me for pointing that out, but he had a couple or 3 stabs at various buttons and combinations of buttons on the steering wheel and on the dash panel. The car was down for quite a wee while. That car, by the way, in 14th overall, and as the leaders, where is the number 3? The leaders are coming up through the snake, and in fact he's just going up the climbing S's, so just ahead of the leader by a couple of corners, so still on the lead lap and trying to close down the back of the GTD top 10. Till Bechtelsheimer in 11th, Guy Cosmo in 10th. That's the next 2 cars. They're having a cracking scrap with Misha Goikberg in the Lamborghini Huracan, who's in 9th position. That's the number 19 GRT Grasser Racing Team car. And what's impressive to me, Jeremy, is that quick stop for Nick Tandy, or at least for Tommy Milner to change to Nick Tandy. Did they manage to stay ahead of the GTD field there?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they pulled out well over a minute on the GTD car, so plenty of time to make that stop, and that's certainly going to play into his favour, as opposed to Kevin Estre, who's got to work his way all the way through the GTD cars. But because even after those first 9 laps of the race, number 79 car was already half a minute behind the 2 Corvettes. So with that pit stop as well, and as Shea was saying, much longer pit stop, he's got a lot more work to do to catch up. So as I said earlier on, the number 79 car really does need a full course caution to get himself back into contention, but they're doing everything they possibly can. Meanwhile, these battles continue in GTD, don't they? It's great to see that as well.
Yeah, and Madison Snow's now right up with Richard Highstand in this battle for second. The Audi, the dark grey and green Audi, and the red, white, black and silver Lamborghini Huracan. He's so close, in fact, that when Richard Highstand just pulled to the left a moment or 2 ago, going through turn 10 to get out of the way of a bit of debris from Michael De Quesada's car, I think, Madison didn't see it, and he did hit it with the front right of the Paul Miller Racing car. Meantime, another place made up, Jeremy Shaw, by Roman De Angelis for Aston Martin.
Indeed so, and he has got himself up now into that 4th position ahead of Aaron Telitz. So he made that pass a couple of laps to go, did Roman De Angelis, and number 23 Aston Martin. So even if the number 1 car were to go on and win this race, it's currently, however, running only in 3rd position. 4th will be enough to clinch that GTD Sprint Cup Championship for the number 23 team. And having got past Aaron Telitz, Roman De Angelis has quickly pulled away from number 14 Lexus and left him into the grasp now of Zachary Robichon in the number 9 Pfaff Porsche, coming all the way from the back of the field. And now Roman De Angelis is going to chase after Madison Snow, who's running in that 3rd place.
Out on their own at the front of the field, the number 3 Corvette team, but now coming up to some traffic, and ahead of them GT3 battles, GT Daytona battles, including Guy Cosmo, Misha Goikberg, and I think Till Bechtelsheimer's in that as well. And that is the 66 Gradient Racing NSX. So Till is in 11th position. Kevin Estre has just gone through this battle, trying to stay on the lead lap. 1 or 2 spots of rain at the southern end of the circuit. Is this a dive down the inside by the leader? Bechtelsheimer left the door open for a moment, but he's in his own battle. But now the additional grunt of the Corvette has got him past. Danger time now for the leader, Jeremy, as he's coming to these battling cars in GT Daytona.
Yes, indeed. So he's got to be careful here, certainly. And for Tommy Milner, excuse me, Nick Tandy did. There was a Dream to Driver, was it, number 4 car?
Correct.
Okay, I missed that. Sorry. So Nick Tandy is not yet up to the pace of Jordan Taylor, and but it's going to be a little while yet before he has to contend with that traffic.
Yeah, he's got a decent gap actually. The next car that he comes to will be the Lexus of Frankie Montecalvo, who had that early damage and spin, remember, down at the Hogs Pen, and he's got half of the back straight before he catches that car. And yeah, as we just mentioned, the rain coming in from the south end of the circuit from around about turn 12 Oak Tree, exactly as it did yesterday. So now we've got to keep an eye on the track conditions down there. We've had 35 minutes of the 2 hours and 40 that we started with on the clock. It is still dry at the moment. There is some damp, that if not to say wet patches on the circuit, but it is still very much slick Michelin tyre weather out there right now, as Madison Snow continues to stalk Richard Highstand for second position. Robbie Foley a second and a half further up the road as they go over the top of the roller coaster, and still this battle just outside and into the top 10 for the 66 Gradient Acura, the 32 Mercedes of Guy Cosmo, and the Lamborghini Huracan, that's the 19 JRT car of Guy Cosmo, all in a battle together. Down through towards the final right-hander, turn 17. All very confident in taking the curve there, but a lovely exit by Till Bechtolsheimer, and he's in the draft of the number 32 AMG ahead of him in that curving front straight, but Guy Cosmo stays to the right-hand side. He's going to make Till go the long way around. Now, can he do the cutback? Guy was too smart for that, parked it on the apex. A little bit of a, if not a block pass, a block hold there into turn 4, NASCAR corner, the left-hander. Bechtolsheimer again using the curb on the apex, on the inside of that corner. And that Gradient car looks a lot more nimble and looks like it's being positioned, Jeremy Shaw, in a variety of different lines. I'd say that Till's got a little bit more grip than Guy Cosmo at the moment.
I think so, and certainly it's a good little battle going on there. A while ago, Misha Goiberg got past Guy Cosmo for that position, but Cosmo was hanging in there, and as you say, Till Bechtolsheimer is all over him as well, so a good little battle going on there. They're about 8 seconds ahead of Ian James, who also managed to get past John Potter, did so a lot more easily than he had done getting past Rob Ferriol. And now Ian James, he's just set his best lap of the race. He's trying to track down that 8-second gap to that little battle we were talking about with Misha Goiberg, Guy Cosmo and Till Bechtolsheimer.
And meantime, the battle for second is heated up again because Madison Snow did have a little challenge on Richard Highstand. Basically, the same drivetrain on the Lamborghini engine and gearbox, the V10, as the R8. Audi is, at the moment, I think, in balance of performance, is a little bit lighter than the 39 Audi ahead of it. 39 Audi ahead of it, excuse me.
Yeah, the Audi is 1,310 kilograms versus the Lambo 1,340. So okay, imagine 30 kilos extra. That's what, 75 pounds?
Yeah. It's a good week shopping, that. Dive down the inside of Madison Snow. It's a lot of sugar. A lot of bags of sugar, isn't it? Sorry, Shane.
That's a lot of sugar and flour.
Yeah, indeed. Now, this might be an opportunity for Madison Snow. Needs to be right up on the tail there. He's just allowed Kevin Estrin to go by in the WeatherTech Porsche and gets a lovely run out of Oak Tree. And here comes the Aston Martin, as predicted by Jeremy Shaw. Ian James is right in behind them as, Roman De Angelis is right in behind them. Both the Astons coming up on little battles at the moment. But as Jeremy rightly said, Roman De Angelis is there now, and we've almost got a 3-car battle for second position, Jeremy.
Yeah, they have. You're absolutely right. In the meantime, though, all of a sudden, Robbie Foley just ekes out a little bit over that battle for second place, with Richard Highstand coming under increasing pressure from Madison Snow as they flash across the line to complete lap 22. As you say, Robert DeAndrews is definitely closing in there. When he got past number 14 car, there was a gap of about a couple of seconds to this number 39 and number 1 battle, and that now is, well, a lot less than a second.
Madison Snow again in the wheel tracks, going through into turn 5, but there's just not enough room there on that short straight from 4 to the turn in, from 3 rather to the turn in of 4 and 5. NASCAR corner. Got a really good run. Now it's follow my leader through the climbing S's. Coming to turn 10, Foley already through it into the compression and now rising up towards the first part of the oak tree. Turns 11 and 12. It's all the way out over the curbing onto that tarmac that was put there a few years ago now. Now, up the 2 risers on that long back straight that houses the secondary pits. Variety of track configurations can be used here, and if you've played any of the console games, I bet you've done challenges on pretty much every single version of them. Backwards, forwards, up and down, daytime, nighttime, and in the rain. It's a very challenging track here. We're on the long circuit today, just over 3¼ miles on the full track. Fastest lap last time around, Jeremy, by the GTD leader. He's now burning off that VP Racing fuel and beginning to pick the pace up in that liquid moly Turner BMW.
He is indeed just turned his best up, as you say there, a 1:46.172. That was on the previous lap. He just completed his 23rd lap. And he still doesn't have much of a margin over those 2 contenders behind them. Meanwhile, that was a 46.1 for Robbie Foley. The fastest lap in the class so far set by Trent Hinman, 1:45.9. But Hinman's still trapped behind Zachary Robichaud, who in turn is trapped behind Aaron Telitz and number 14 Lexus.
And that is, let me see, 6th, 7th and 8th, isn't it, those guys? And just a point there as well, I'm actually very impressed, Jeremy, that this battle for second position, Robbie Foley and Richard Highstand Richard Highstand and Madison Snow. I'll come back to that in a moment, because John Potter's had a spin and gets him pointed back in the right direction. But he's off the track and down in the dip on driver's right at turn 1, and I'm not sure he's going to get that up the hill there. Oh, he's done very well indeed, but he's got to come right onto the apex of turn 1, and he's got it through. My point, Jeremy, was going to be that Richard Highstand and Madison Snow sort of battling, but they're not really holding each other up. They're still that 1.5 seconds away from Robbie Foley. That gap hasn't changed hardly at all.
True indeed, and here's a replay, I think, of what happened to John Potter. Just got in on the brakes a little bit too heavy into turn 1, spun it around, and then tried to rejoin, and then went onto the grass and cost him a lot of ground. He was coming under increasing pressure there from Rob Ferriol, in the Team Hardpoint Porsche, which of course is based right here at VIR, so home track for Rob Ferriol, and Rob will take over that position from John Potter.
So that battle has not slowed down. That scrap for second, it would seem. And for the moment, at least, Roman De Angelis still just at about a second behind them. And he's got one of the Corvettes coming through as well at the moment. That's the leader, in fact, isn't it, that's coming through them at the moment. So I do note the fact that the GTD cars are not giving up that much to the leading Corvette as it comes through. Roman De Angelis was sitting pretty close on the bright yellow rear end of that Corvette until they started to climb the hill, and then the little bit of extra grunt from the Corvette and a little bit more downforce as well, so Jordan Taylor could take a little more speed through the very fast uphill section there. That was what paid, and now he's on the straight. He passes Madison Snow, but then has to drop back in between those two GTDs to get a secondary tour, Jeremy, to get past the car barn Audi. So that's how close those cars are, even in a straight line.
Yeah, really interesting, isn't it? There isn't a big speed differential.
Oh, Till Bechtelsheimer is off in the Gradient Unit Nutrition car, and that's coming into the Oak Tree. He's gone off at turn 10, hasn't he? At the south turn. We think he may have had help there. We'll check that out in a moment. He was in that battle, of course, with Guy Cosmo and Misha Goikberg. And they were in close company. We'll get that to you as soon as we have that information. I'm watching the race control channel to see if anything pops up there. The leader has now cleared the GTD battle. What that has done, to my eyes at least, Jeremy, is it looks as though Robbie Foley has lost out again just a little bit there. I'll come back to that in a second. Bechtelsheimer in behind the AMG that is in 10th position. Nope, just lost it at the top of the rise at 9 and went off to driver's right at 10. Like the back end just got away from him. Pit window has opened for GTD, and in comes Bechtelsheimer straight away. Mario Farnbacher stands ready. He's ready to go, Adam.
Yes, he is, and a new set of Michelin tires going onto that 66 Gradient Racing Acura. Not many sticker tires for Mario so far this weekend, so he's going to be a happy camper going out around VIR. He knows the track, he knows the car, having won the championship in this car last year. So let's see what Super Mario can do.
Tony DeZino, hi Tony, tuned in. He was watching and listening to our Radio Show Limited coverage of the Nürburgring finale earlier on the day, which finished handily about 5 minutes before we came on air for Michelin Countdown to Green, despite it being delayed a little bit this morning for fog. Tony, and I think he's spot on here, Jeremy, this at IMSA Radio. GTD pit stops feel like they're going to mean an awful lot today with how close these cars are on the track and how hard, Jeremy Shaw, it is to pass. Don't think there's much to add to that, to be honest, is there? From Tony.
Thanks for answering the question.
Yeah,
actually.
sorry. TDZ hitting nail on head with rather large hammer, to be honest. We've got this battle now. Here's the first of the pit stops from GTD, apart from that one from Gradient that we saw after the off. Shea Adam is down watching the pit stops for a Lamborghini and an AMG GT3.
And I'm fairly excited about this Mercedes pit stop for Gilbert Cawthorpe, because Guy Cosmo getting out, and we've got Mike Skeen getting in. Mike, who last drove a Mercedes, I want to say it was the last minute call up at the Daytona 24 earlier this year to fill in for Michael De Quesada with the Allegra Motorsport team. But this time he's getting in 4 new Michelin tires and a whole lot of fuel going on in that car. And for Grasser Racing, they are doing fuel tires and a driver change. Misha Goikberg is out, and in is Frank Pereira. So
now here's a funny thing. Here's the 66 Gradient car getting a little love tap from the Pfaff Porsche, who gets a little love tap from the right car that's in behind it as well. Don't forget that is Super Mario Farnbacher just getting up to speed there, Jeremy, but that was a dangerous little moment there. One car that has pitted and 3 that have not.
Yeah, and what was interesting also about that is we see the leader in GTD coming into the pit lane, Robbie Foley, to hand over to Bill Oberlin, 45 minutes has, of course, been completed. Till Bechtolsheimer, he timed his spin nicely, because by the time he got to the end of the lap, the pit window was open, so he was able to come straight into the pit. So that was effectively his in-lap, on which he spun. But my point there about the number 66 car, when it rejoined, it certainly hindered Aaron Telitz coming onto the back straight, and that allowed both Porsches to get a run and get past Aaron Telitz as they headed on that back straightaway, because the Porsches are super fast in a straight line. Yeah,
and on such small things, etc, 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 are Porsche keys to the race. Track position, so pit stops, absolutely, as Tony Tazzino tweeted at IMSA Radio recently. Stay off the grass is slippery, track is grippy. And don't forget those championship implications as well. There are people out there who are fighting for trophies at the end of the year. This round and one more, Motul Petit Le Mans, for the overall championship, and of course for the long distance championship as well, the Endurance Cup for GTD. But this one is the last race for the Sprint Cup, and the Aston Martin number 23 doing at the moment enough, Jeremy Shaw, to take that championship.
Yes, indeed. Been a really nice opening stint there for Roman De Andres. He's keeping the pressure on the car directly ahead of him. That is his closest contender in the championship for the Sprint Cup. Coming into this weekend, the gap was 74 points between those two. It was extended by 5 as a result of Ross Gunn claiming maximum points in the secondary qualifying session yesterday for GTD. So 79 points there, that the margin coming into this race.
It's Jeremy Shaw, who's alongside me, John Hindhaugh, in the Hackney Global Broadcast Centre. A couple of Porsche passes a lap or two ago, which were aided by the NSX of Mario Farnbacher coming out on cold Michelin tyres. Remember, no tyre warmers allowed here. And the Lexus was the one that lost out. Aaron Telitz tried to get up the inside in the second part of the Oak Tree corner, and that cost him on the exit, and the two Porsches using that to drag through. Yeah, Telitz had to back out of it there, and the two Porsches dragging each other by, all very tight on the back straight, but a little bit of bump drafting from the Wright Motorsport car on the FAF shit, Adam.
Trent Hinman's gone off, John, at turn 1. He just spun off the track. He did get going again. I didn't see what caused him to go off, but that was one of the Porsches we were just talking about.
Trent Hinman driving the number 16, right, the teal-coloured Porsche, was in 5th position in class after that exchange earlier on. That car has not yet stopped, but into the pit lane. The number 88 hardpoint car, Rob Foriel out, Catherine Legg in. I think we mentioned Mike Skeen getting in for Guy Cosmore, didn't we? Yes, we did. Oh, and he got help from Catherine Legg as she was coming out the pits, I think, there. So the two Porsches getting together, and that is under review as the overall leader, Shea Adam, Jordan Taylor for Corvette number 3. The yellow car is in the pit lane.
Jordan Taylor in, staying in. Antonio Garcia taking over fuel and 4 new Michelin tires. Also under the pit lane, we've got the 39 Carbon Audi in. Richard Highstand, his job done for today. Jeff Westphal taking over fuel and Michelin tires going on there. A little bit of a slow driver change going on for that Audi. Also into the pit lane, the number 23, Heart of Racing Aston Martin, Roman De Angelis, handing over to Ross Gunn. We've got Trent Hinman in the pits after that incident. He will be getting out and handing over to Patrick Long. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And also in Michael De Quesada with the Allegra Motorsport Mercedes, handing to Daniel Morad. Fuel and tires for every car. Still the Corvette on the pit lane. There we go. That was a slow stop for Corvette Racing. 1 minute and 9 seconds on the pit lane. They lost 26 seconds during that stop. I'll find out why.
It looked like a problem with both back wheels, Shea, from the view that I had. We might get another chance to review that. So back out and 2 corners ahead of their teammates. So behind their teammates, should I say. So the 4 has gone through. Nick Tandy has gone through. Actually, it's a little bit more than that. They're just coming up to the climbing S's now, and Nick Tandy is into the Oak Tree corner. So the 4 Corvette has taken over the lead of the race, and now leads as he's on the back straight. Well, importantly, that time lost did not allow Kevin Estre through into second place. So Antonio Garcia now just have to hunt down his teammate. But we did say those pit stops, track position are going to be key in our Porsche keys the race. And there goes the Carbon Audi off the road. That is coming again through the turn 10 area, through the climbing S's and just over the top of the rise at 9. Mario Farmbach has just put the fastest lap of the race in GT Daytona in the Gradient Acura now that he's got his Michelin's up to temperature and pressure. But of course, he's dropped down, having made his pit stop, to 13th position. Let's see how much time he can get back as other people are pitting and getting up to speed. Estre's stuck at the moment in behind the leader in, check that, the former leader in GT Daytona. Now let's see if we can find out what happened to the number 39. Was there a touch? I don't think there was between Bill Oberlin there and that number 39 Audi. It was close, but I don't think it was a touch. And it was the Liqui Moly car. So it just scared him off the track, really, more than anything, I think, there, Jeremy. It was right at the top of turn 10. Sort of there. There was sort of side by side. I'm not sure you can go side by side through over the top of the rise at 9 and 10. Still waiting to have a look at the Shea, you might be able to tell us what the situation is with the Catherine Legg and Trent Hinman accident.
Reviewed, no further action. The incident involving the 39 Carbon Audi and the 96 Turner Motorsport BMW is under review. The update on the 3 Corvette, it was bad equipment for the rear tire change. That's what happened. So unfortunate for them. The number 1 is in Paul Miller Racing. Madison Snow out of the car. Brian Sellers is in. 4 new Michelin tires, just waiting on the fuel, adding a little bit of fluid in the back too, an oil canister going in there. We've got Zachary Robichon in for the 9 Pfaff Motorsport Porsche. Lawrence Vantor is behind the wheel that one now, and he was doing his rain dance a little bit earlier on, that crazy guy. We've got Aaron Tielitz with the 14 Lexus into the pit lane, Jack Hawksworth taking over, and also Ian James has brought in the Heart of Racing Aston Martin number 27, the sister car to the one going for the Sprint Championship, and it is Alex Rivera taking over that car. I was talking with Alex a little bit earlier on today. He was saying how much it means to him to be a part of this championship once again. He finished just off the podium his last time at VIR, looking to try and improve upon that.
Just a note, if we do get to see that Corvette stop again, and we might, just watch very carefully, because even in the midst of things going wrong, there was no panic there. It appeared to me that the gun failed on the left rear tyre. So instead of panicking, the tyre changer went back to the wall, changed the gun, and then started again on the right rear tyre before going back to the left, so he didn't have to run backwards and forwards a couple of times extra. Just that little clarity of thought, even when things are going wrong. Did they lose some time? Yes. Was it as much as they could have? Absolutely not. Another fastest lap in GTD by Mario Farnbacher. Jeremy Shaw, that number 66 Gradient car, is the same chassis that Mario raced last year in different colours.
Yeah, very familiar with that car, certainly, but a lot of ground to make up after that spin for Till Bettelsheimer, of course. But also right before that pit stop, John, Madison Snow set the fastest lap of his race in car number 1. Great time to do it. He comes in next time around, handed over that car to Brian Sellers, and we'll see when they get back up to speed again where they are in relation to one another. But here now, Ross Gunn under stout pressure from Jack Hawksworth. Meanwhile, Bill Oberlin, he's already 4.5 seconds down the road in the lead of this race, or will be, I think, after the pit stops have been completed.
Jeremy Shaw with me, John Hindhoff, in the Hackney Global Broadcast Centre. Across the start-finish line, number 96, Turner BMW, looking at the back of Brian Sellers and tries to go around the outside. Oberlin versus Sellers. Well, get the popcorn in, settle back, because we've got an hour and 41 minutes of this, 101 minutes, and I will guarantee it will be nip and tuck. The Lamborghini looking tiny next to that number 96. It goes down the inside at turn 3 and 4 and now into 5. There was a little rub on the left rear guard of the Lamborghini by Oberlin. Oberlin wants to be through. He's got an advantage at the moment. He knows he has. Tries to go up the inside through the climbing S's and makes it. Goes through. Well, Brian Sellers deciding that wasn't his fight at that point. I think there, Jeremy, that he didn't need to be holding up Bill Oberlin in the clear, feisty mood that Bill Oberlin is in. Well, always in a feisty, quick mood, in fairness. But that looked to me as though Brian just backed out of that one there and playing the long game.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think he did. I'm not sure he had an awful lot of choice in the matter, because Bill was pushing the envelope. He gave him a little bit of a nudge at turn 4 there. Actually took off a strake on one of those two cars, so he could see that the number 96 car was being forceful there. Clearly, you know, Sellers, he's only just done one lap out of the pits. The number 96 car, he's already done 5 laps, so his tyres, Michelin tyres, are well up to temperature. So I think really that was a smart move by Brian Sellers. He could have made things difficult, and if he did, though, he risked making some contact between the two and going off the road, which wouldn't be good, of course. So, you know, in terms of the championship, he's still looking in good shape. You know, for the overall championship, you know, he's still right in it. So they've got to look at the big picture here coming into this race in the overall championship for GTD. The number 1 car is ahead of the he's ahead of number 96, but not by very much.
So they are battling in the championship. The two opening drivers for Corvette having a chat down in the pit lane. Their work, one would expect, will be done. They'll stay suited and booted. Messrs. Taylor and Milner, just in case they need to come on. Alan Prosser says, I thought I saw the Corvette gun operator signal there was something wrong with the wheel, and then even tried the gun on the wheel, then brought another wheel around to be put on. Okay, right. Certainly there was something going on at the back of the car. So let's see if we can get a definitive on what that equipment failure was. Failure was here multitude of problems. As I say, what struck me was the complete lack of panic down on the pit lane Corvette Racing. Meantime, battle for 5th and 4th position. Jeff Westphal now looking at the back of the number 12. That is the Lexus. Frankie Montecalvo. That's not a battle for position, is it? Because Frankie's still off the lap and, of course, hasn't stopped yet. Frankie hasn't. Must have. Can't still. Because he did that extra stop at the beginning, Shea.
Correct. He had that issue
30
at
laps,
the beginning.
Correct. Yeah.
So he's hoping for yellow.
I've got an update.
Go ahead, Shea.
I've got an update from Corvette, by the way. It was wrong rear tires on the 3-car stop.
Right.
Yep.
So they couldn't fit them because they were either from the other car or something like that.
Correct.
Good spot. That is an excellent spot by whoever worked that one out. And don't forget, it's not just a question of somebody looking to see what numbers are written on in white marker pen as they go out, because you drive through an RFID reader now, and all of the Michelin tyres have got chips in them. In fact, I was just reading a very interesting article in this month's edition of Race Car Engineering about the new Porsche Mission R, which not only have Michelin built some bespoke tyres for, but they have put a smart chip in there that can tell the driver how much the tyres are wearing by feeding that back by Bluetooth or some kind of Harry Potter magic. I'm not certain how Michelin do all this stuff. They're far too clever for me. All I know is that they build very good race and street tyres and do a lot of work here, actually. Sorry, say again, Jeremy?
Too much information.
Yeah,
it's up to the drivers to feel what the tyres are like.
Michelin do a lot of work here, though, don't they? They do a lot of street car test work and work here, as well as at obviously Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. And I seem to recall in the past when we've been here, there's been all kinds of demonstrations and runs going on here. So Michelin know this track very, very well indeed.
Yeah, they do. You're right. That's a very good point. They do a lot of testing everywhere, and they have a lot of great information. And they're just giving more information to the drivers. Certainly good for them. On board with the Heart of Racing Aston Martin, currently running in the fourth position, which would be enough to clinch the Sprint Cup Championship at this stage. Ross Gunnar looking at the tail end of Lawrence Vanthoor. Both of these two making ground toward Brian Sellers. In fact, they were both quicker than the race leader, Bill Oberlin. Last time around for Bill Oberlin, who leads, a 146.2, 146.3 for Brian Sellers. Now got that Lamborghini fully up to speed. And then there's a 3.8 second gap back to Lawrence Vanthoor, who turned a 45.9, so 3 tenths quicker than the leader. 2 tenths quicker than him was Ross Gunn in the Aston Martin. So this battle is heating up in GTD.
Hour and 35 minutes to go then. 95 minutes. Nick Tandy leading from his teammate. He's already up the climbing S's as his teammate Antonio Garcia in the number 3 car goes through to turn 3 and now into turns 4 and 5. That little chicane, very quick chicane in fairness. Kevin Estre now 9 seconds behind Antonio Garcia and closed in about half a second last lap around. Now wheel goes on the left rear and then there's a shake of the head from the wheelman. No, take that one away, it won't work. So he goes round to the right. They had the left wheel on the right side.
Racing?
Yeah, the right wheel on the left side, and that's why they went round to the other side. So he noticed. So that if they had an encapsulated nut on there, the nut would not tighten because presumably, Shay, they have different threads on either side. So the wheel would have got on quite nicely, but the nut would never have tightened up because tighty on that side is loosey on the other side.
Correct, and that's just some of the brilliance that you get with Corvette racing. Not very long ago, I saw a race car that had the tires, the front tires put on the back and the back tires put on the front. Yeah, that was not pleasant. Thankfully, the driver noticed right away. But yes, for Corvette racing, they have that down to a science. Yeah, the steering wheel, for some reason, in a straight line was going left hand down.
Yeah, understand. Well, good spot anyway. Not too much time wasted there, but they have lost the lead and now find themselves in a rather tighter battle. Jeremy Shaw, that number 3 Corvette, the bright yellow car with the white Kevin Estre driven Proton Engineering Run WeatherTech number 79 Porsche with Estre on full attack mode now, and all of those 3 drivers, Tandy, Garcia and Estre, presumably in to the end of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure they are. Yeah, but I mean, that was a big, huge mistake from Corvette Racing. I think you never see the team making that sort of mistake. I mean, they practice their pits, so they know which tyres should go on which wheel. You don't take the wrong one. It's just something that Corvette Racing never does. So yeah, at least they spotted it. But a very uncharacteristic mistake by Corvette Racing, and that certainly, unless there is a full course caution, is going to cost any chance of a race win for Antonio Garcia. You're right, the 3 leaders the 3 cars in GT are turning very similar lap time. So right now, there's about 28 seconds, almost half a minute between the first 2. That gap has stayed since around the pit stop. Kevin Estre is about 8.5 seconds back in 3rd position. Again, that gap's remaining fairly stable as well. So it's hard to see any major changes there in GTLM. But in GTD, I talked about the fact that Laurens Vanthoor and Ross Gunn were quicker than the two leaders last time around. On the next lap, however, Brian Sellers and Bill Aubrey both turned their fastest laps of the race. So, this is a long way from being over in GTD.
There's Alan Prosser who first spotted that issue and tweeted at IMSA Radio, and Turner Motorsport have just tweeted, Alan could spot a field mouse on the moon at night, blindfolded. Yes, and he would normally be able to find a screen grab of it as well. At Lanzarote Camel, Alan Prosser, thank you very much indeed for giving us the benefit of your eagle-like eyesight on that when so much is happening for us here in the Hackney Global Broadcast Centre. Coming down to 90 minutes now to go. Here's how it stands in GT Daytona. Bill Aubrey leads by 2.5 seconds in that BMW M6 GT3. The number 96 car then leads the number 1. That's Brian Sellers in the Lamborghini Huracan for Paul Miller Racing. He's got about 3 seconds now, call it 3.5 actually, on Laurens Vanthoor in the number 9, the plaid Porsche. Behind them it's Ross Gunn that's Laurens Vanthoor, by the way, in that number 9 car. Ross Gunn is another, just 3/10 behind. So that is a proper battle for 3rd and 4th position, with the Aston Martin in 4th position at the moment, which is where it needs to be to win the championship, whatever else happens. And 5.5 seconds is the safe gap at the moment to the 39 Jeff Westphal driven Audi R8, the carbon car, dark grey and green machine. Then it's Jack Hawksworth 6 seconds further back in the Lexus RCF GT3. That's the number 14, the yellow and black car, just rounding the Oak Tree corner now. Behind him, Daniel Morad has taken over the 28 and is side by side with Trent Hinman as they go down the back straight. Perfect time to be talking about them. A little bit of side drafting going on, and they touch. I think there was a tiny little touch there as they go up towards the second rise and the top of the roller coaster. Now Hinman will have the inside rise. This all started a couple of quite a long time ago. Yeah, this was the early one, same spot.
But what it shows, John, is the straight line speed of the Porsche.
Absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely right. And just waiting to see if that pass was actually completed by the number 16 of Trent Hinman. And yes, it was. Yes, it was, because I can see it going around turn 1 now. That teal blue colour is the one of the easier cars to spot, and is now going into turns 4 and 5, and with 10 cars lengths. So the pass was made. A little bit of side drafting doesn't necessarily speed you up, but it can slow down the car that you're trying to pass. And Trent Hinman, once he'd got fully alongside there, Jeremy, going up the hill to the roller coaster, he was on the wrong side for the left-hand part of the roller coaster, but he knew the corner was going to come to him.
Indeed, it'll be Patrick Longlow at the wheel of that car, won't it? At this stage, did they not change drivers in number 16
Correct.
car?
Yeah, excuse me.
They didn't.
Correct.
Oh wow.
No driver
Correct.
change, not yet.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. That's a big tip of the hat then to Trent Hinman to set there, and he's certainly doing a very fine job at the wheel of that number 16 car. Next to these sights are going to be Jack Hawksworth, but he's another 4 seconds up the road, so he's going to have to have work cut out to catch up with that number 14 Lexus. But a super long opening stint here for Trent Hinman.
Yeah, very interesting that they left Trent in there. Shearer will be able to look at the pit stop times. I presume they did give him a fresh set of Michelins. I can't imagine anybody would want to try and double around here, Shearer.
No. They gave him full service. They just didn't do the driver change, saving Patrick Long for the final stint to keep him a little bit more fresh, whereas everybody else is going to have double stinted to the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Mario Farmbach is off and buried in the tyres. This will be a full course yellow, and is, with 1 hour and 27 minutes on the nose. And this is at the top of the roller coaster, I think. Yes, it is. And he's gone far enough off that he's almost cannot be seen under the tyres. The tyres have done their job, the catch fencing's done its job, but that car is buried and a very long way off, but it looks like it's gone straight in. It's a very odd angle. Could have gone in at a slightly more acute angle and then been pulled around. The onboard camera's still working, bodywork has been peeled back from the front, and the shape of the NSX has lifted up that conveyor belt style banding and gone underneath and lifted the first couple of rows of the tyres. And we'll wait for news from the team there about the driver and whether they can talk to him. There are actually two separate rows of tyres there. There's an initial row of probably, or an additional array is probably the best, I should say, of probably, 4 banded stacks of tyres held together with the banding on the front of it, the conveyor belt, and can't see any skid marks at all on the grass. So he's gone in there at virtually unabated speed. It's Mario Farnbacher we're talking about, and he's basically submarined under those, but has stopped before he hit the tyres in front of the retaining wall and the catch fencing. So those initial tyres, much as at turn at Sunset at Sebring, those tyres, a sort of initial row of tyres were put in there many years ago to slow the cars down at the end of the back straight. Mario Farnbacher is out, dusts the dirt and mud off his gloves, he's left his helmet on, and he's straight to the Porsche Cayenne EMR Global Response Vehicle. Well, whatever anybody thinks, Jeremy, about issues of tyres, they have done their job there. In point of fact, he wasn't going as quick as I thought, but he just, once he was on the grass, lost that going into the roller coaster, and then from then on he was a passenger and just did not appear to slow down very much at all.
No, scary incident there for Mario Farnbacher. It's kind of over the crest there, isn't it? And then down the hill on the grass. And yeah, the tyres, I think there might need to be a little bit more gap between those two separate tyre barriers there. There's a good car length between them, and he pushed the tyres all the way through. I mean, a very scary incident there. I think, I'm not sure whether he would have been able to get out of the car with those tyres kind of on top of, certainly on top of the back end of the car, as he went straight underneath the first tyre barrier. That was a very scary incident indeed, and great to see he's out of that car. And you're right, and certainly that barrier will have prevented what could have been a lot worse.
And a lot of damage with the car as well.
Driver.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, exactly right. Car and driver, yeah.
Here's the worst thing about that, and I can say this now, and I'm saying it slightly tongue-in-cheek because we've seen Mario walk away. The worst thing about that is he knew that was coming from a very, very long way out, and it appears that he just couldn't get the car slowed down, Jeremy, as he came to the top of the hill. He turns in to the left-handed part, and already he knows he's not making it, and he's not slowing down. There was no way he was making the right-hand corner there. It was as soon as he went onto the brakes that accident was happening, and he knew it.
Indeed so, and it's downhill over that crest, and you're going to get, and particularly with the grass being wet after the rain earlier on this morning, you're going to get no purchase at all down there to help slow the car anymore. So any retardation that there was on that car was all done before he left the racing surface, and clearly there wasn't nearly enough to get that car around the corner. So it's a scary part of the racetrack there. It is a scary track, and that was a very frightening incident, and great to see that Mario is out of that car. And one has to hope also there's not too much damage to the car. Like I say, the tyre wall, from that respect, has done, I think, a very, very good job. Kerrigan Smith, the track manager at VIR, he is one of the leading safety advocates in this country for motor racing safety, and has done a fabulous job here in conjunction with the ownership team and Connie Nyholm and the rest of the team here at VIR. And they've it's a challenging racetrack. It is tricky. You're going to go off here, and there are going to be consequences.
Yeah.
But what they've done there to ameliorate the problems for the driver that he clearly suffered when he went off the racetrack there, has saved injury there. Great to see.
There have been a number of safety changes made at this circuit since the last time IMSA were here down at turn 1. Those of you with a good memory will recall that we've had some very big accidents down at turn 1. Well, there's a new fence down there and some additional catch fencing down there. This area at the top of the hill at the roller coaster at what is effectively turn 15, 16, I suppose, 15, 14, 15 at the top of the hill. That has been changed relatively recently as well because of an incident in a race earlier this year. And because it's what I do, noticing things, we'll get to share in a sec, because this is going to bring everybody in and put all of the GT Le Mans cars back on the same strategy. It's not that they've just plonked those tyres by the way down in front of it. They've dug the grass away so that there was dirt underneath those tyres, so there was something to purchase. They wouldn't just slide on those tyres. So there's a lot of thought gone into that. Shea, you've got the GT Le Mans field in.
And having been the most recent pit stopper, the number 3 Corvette is the first car back off the lane. No tires for them after the kerfuffle the last time, just fuel. For Nick Tandy, it was 4 new Michelin tires. And the same story for Kevin Estra. Both of those cars owed us stops. They were well within their window for needing to come in, but now it's going to be another splash for GTLM to try and make it to the end of this race. As we heard from Mark Miller, driver of the Gradient Racing Acura on normal weekends, he told us that with all of the flat out time around this track, your pit window tends to not get stretched as much as it does in other locations.
Yeah, and you know, half the number of laps done for Antonio Garcia. That's why he was stationary for a shorter amount of time, Jeremy, because quite honestly he didn't need as much fuel, so there was no point in trying to put tyres on again. He'd only had them 15 laps ago.
That's exactly right, but you know, this is certainly good news for everybody except for the number 4 team, because number 4 team, you know, without this full course caution, they were out front and well clear and looking golden, but with the timing of this yellow, of course, it's going to bring number 3 and number 79 right back into the picture. That was kind of the gamble that the number 4 team took by making that early stop. You know, if there was a caution at this stage, they were going to be vulnerable, and indeed that has been the case. So it's going to make it a lot more interesting for us watching, that's for sure, in the final stage. I don't think we're going to see probably any of the GTD cars come into the pits. We've got an hour and 18 minutes remaining, so they can't get to the end from here unless would be another long full course caution. They're going to need another pit stop at some stage.
Just looking at the damage on the front of the Gradient NSX, it's bodywork, certainly. There's 1 or 2 coolers, etc. in there, and I do think something went wrong with the car as soon as he braked. That is not a driver error at that point. I said that as soon as I saw it. It didn't look right. There was a wiggle as he started his quite heavy braking for the top of the hill at turn 14, and Mario, I think, was a passenger for most of that. His concentration there was trying to keep it straight and go in. I don't think he wanted to throw it sideways at that sort of speed or backwards, so he put it in as straight as he could.
Oh, we are seeing contenders come in the pits.
Well, yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, particularly if the leader comes in, then everybody else really has to cover that. It's a bit of a gamble there by number 96 team, I would suggest, but because I don't think this caution is going to be long enough to get to the end, but they are going to need another pit stop at some stage, and by coming in now, at least their final stop will be a good bit shorter than it would otherwise be.
Shea Adams watching these pit stops as our VP Racing Fuel Pit Paddock reporter.
It's fuel and tires for the Turner Motorsport Taco Mobile, the BMW in and out, and it's fuel and tires for Paul Miller Racing. Paul Miller jumps the BMW, leaving the pit lane, but the first car out is the first car in the championship. That is Pfaff Motorsport, taking just a smidge less fuel than everyone else, since they were a bit newer to the racetrack, having been on the pit lane a little bit sooner than everyone else, if you see what I mean. Their pit time was a bit more recently. I'm looking and I am seeing P.E. Long listed against the blue Wright Motorsport Porsche, so they did get a driver change done in that time as well. Third off the lane was the 39 Carbon Audi. That's Jeff Westphal once again, but we had two cars who elected not to come down the pit lane at all, and now we're at the head of the field. That's Frank Pereira in the 19 Brasser Lamborghini, and the 32 of Mike Skeen, that Gilbert Carthorpe Mercedes. Also staying out was Andy Lally, but he's trying to get a lap back.
Ian McCarthy saying, so great to see Mario Farnbacher jump out of the Gradient car so nimbly after that accident. That looked rough at IMSA Radio. Thank you for that. And the clear up goes on. This is not going to be the work of a moment, because there's a lot of tyre stacks that have to be moved. We've got an hour and 15 minutes to go. I'm confidently predicting that it'll be a good 10 to 15 minutes before we get going again. I know how fast the crews work here, and they've got all the machinery there that they need already, but there's a lot of shimmying of heavy bits of tyres there. I would think certainly we're looking at a sizable chunk of yellow. So behind the safety car with an hour and 15 minutes on the nosy to go in this Saturday main race of the IMSA Michelin GT Challenge weekend. Still to come today, we have Porsche race 1 of 2 this weekend for the Porsche Carrera Cup North America, presented by Visit Cayman Islands. And then tomorrow, a full card of racing that includes another Porsche race plus the Michelin Pilot Challenge and the Prototype Challenge as well. That's all to come tomorrow, and we'll have that for you in sound and vision here on IMSARadio.com and IMSA.tv. Thanks for joining us if you're on XM202, our usual channel for IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship events. Next up for this championship, it's the big one, 10 hours of Motul Petit Le Mans, and that's another Saturday race. Check IMSA.com for all the details. Very busy weekend with many championships coming to a close that weekend. So this has reset everything now, Jeremy, because everybody stopped really, I suppose, making the consideration that this is going to be a relatively long pit stop, and there's no point in staying out if everybody, or the majority of people, have come in. You might as well take your chances and reset and at least make up the gaps that you had to the cars in front.
Yeah, I mean, you know, for the number 19 and the 32, you know, nothing to lose there by staying out and leading the race. You're right, it depends on how long this caution period turns out to be. It is going to be a while, yes, and it could conceivably bring the cars that did make their pit stops into the range of being able to make it to the end without needing another pit stop. If it goes another, let's say 20 minutes, definitely the case. But anything earlier than that, there's certainly going to be quite a bit of fuel save required, I believe.
Yeah. And worth mentioning how hard the track services, who are out at the top of the roller coaster at turn 14 at the moment, reconstituting that tyre barrier, plus all of our marshals, track workers, medical support, flaggers, people parking cars, punching tickets. Thank you very, very good. Thank you very, very much for all your good, great work across this season and indeed every season, both here in IMSA and around the big wide world of motorsport. We simply could not go racing without all of you, each and every one of you. The jobs you're doing are essential, so thank you very much for giving up the precious resource of your time to be with us and allow us to indulge ourselves in our favourite sport. It's going to be a different look to the paddock tomorrow, with the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship teams being able to pack up tonight. A rather different look to the weekend, but plenty of racing to come tomorrow. So if you are in reasonable driving distance of VIR, I would heartily recommend coming up. There's some great driving roads around here, great hospitality as well for the concluding part of the Michelin GT Challenge weekend. So if you can make it, come up. If you can't, or you're further afield, tune in to our live coverage, streaming video and our IMSA radio commentary if you're outside the US for the Michelin Pilot Challenge. But we will have all the Porsche races, both the Porsche races, for you on IMSARadio.com in sound and vision, flag to flag, and no blocks, no breaks. Been a great season for the Porsches as well this year, and we have 5 races left, 2 here and 3 at Motul Petit Le Mans. First season of the 992 Porsche Cup cars, and a real battle royale between 3 youngsters in the pro class, and it is the first time we've had a pro category in the IMSA Porsche series, upgraded this year to the new 992 Cup car and to a Carrera Cup rather than a GT Challenge, which has meant that those young drivers are all eligible for the Young Driver Programme and their shootout later on this year. Waiting to hear who is the chosen one. It's not necessarily going to be the driver that wins, because I don't think we'll be finished the season before that decision has to be made and the drivers go off to the shootout in Europe. Onto Petit Le Mans very late this year. And actually, whilst I was saying congratulations to our officials and marshals, we should also say what a good job, Jeremy, that IMSA have done this year. A little bit different look to the championship season, but we've got all the races in and not all the venues. This year we've gone north of the border to Canada, but it's been what is a pretty decent season again of IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship racing and the developmental series as well. They have kept all of their races, and in fact that's why there's 3 Porsche races at Motul Petit Le Mans, because they couldn't support the IndyCar race because the IndyCar race didn't happen in Canada. So it's been a heck of a year for the logistics team and the sporting team, the competition team at IMSA as well.
Indeed so. I mean, a tremendous shame not to go north of the border to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, because everybody enjoys going there, even with the hassles of crossing the border for the teams. But you're right, that's the only race we haven't managed to get to this season. So indeed, a brilliant job by everybody involved with IMSA and their promoting partners as well at the racetracks to make these events happen. It looks like the lights are off, I think, on the safety car, so we're going to go back to green with 1 hour and 7 minutes remaining, and I think that's going to require another pit stop from all of the GTD contenders and the GTLMs as well. So this is going to be a real bun fight now for the remaining hour and 7 minutes or so.
Lights are indeed out on the Porsche Takan Turbo S safety car. Shea Adam was watching the numbers and the pit stops. Not everybody fully filled here, knowing that they would probably have to stop again. They've listened to the Porsche keys to the race. They've gone for track positions. Which car's that?
Well, the number 9 FAP Motorsport Porsche did for sure. They were about 4 seconds less on the pit lane than the 3 cars behind them. Also doing short fuel was the 16 Wright Motorsport, again a short stop, and the 27 Art of Racing team. They took substantially less fuel than their team car.
So the massive amount of torque from the electric motors and the all-wheel drive, over 700 horsepower when required, means that the Takan Turbo S has dissipated the pit lane quietly without any fuss, very comfortably as well, by the way. As we go back to green with an hour and 6, well done to the repair crew. They knocked a good 5 or 6 minutes off what I thought it would take them to do it, and the two Corvettes are at it, and here comes Kevin Estre side by side for the two C8Rs, and Estre's following through. He might just sneak between them here as they go to NASCAR corner, trying it round the outside, still sticking it to the Corvette, and there's a touch. Someone's going to end up on the grass, and it's the WeatherTech car. Back down to third. For a moment, I think the nose of the Porsche 911, the number 79 car, was ahead as they head away behind them. Frank Pereira was leading in GTD for the number 19 Grasser Racing team. If they short-filled as well, or did they not come in to the pit lane?
They did not stop.
Yeah, so they've rolled the dice the other way, and up at Oak Tree, Estre's at it again in the white Porsche. Now we know how fast the Porsche GTD cars are. What are they like in GT Le Mans spec? Just looking at the restart to make sure nothing was awry. Did the two Corvettes jump? I think they were all right. Hour and 5 minutes to go. Seems to me, Jeremy, that Estre feels that his best chance is whilst he's getting the heat into the tyres here. He's really got some pace, and he's given Nick Tandy a real going over.
Well, he certainly is, isn't he? That was really elbowed out of the first corner, the first 3 or 4 corners, wasn't it, on that restart lap? We talked about it right at the beginning. The restart laps, out laps, everything like that, we're going to be really tricky because it is difficult to bring these tyres up to temperature on this track. There's not a lot of grip, it's not super hot here today, and so that's exactly why we saw such elbowing for position there on that first lap. The first 2 car, by the way, in GTD at the restart did not stop. I think Mike Skeeters now, as he brought that car into the pits as he has to make his what he hopes, I guess, will be his final stop. But the big loser of that round of pit stops, by the way, was number 23 Aston Martin, that fell from 4th position down to, where is it now, in the 9th place.
Yeah. Shea also into the pit lane, the number 12 Acura for Zach Veach, but this is not for service.
No, this Lexus has received a very hefty penalty. Running the red light at pit exit, stop plus 60. Zach is in now serving that.
Yeah, that team, they were a little bit unlucky with that caution period because the number 19 and 32 did not come onto the pit lane with everybody else in GTD. Number 12 car wasn't able to get its lap back, as was Andy Lally, who had been ahead of those two. So he was able to get back on the lead lap, get the wave around, get back on the lead lap, and number 44 for Magnus Racing with Archangel, but not the number 12 car. So once again, nothing going right for that number 12 team this season.
At IMSA Radio, if you'd like to get in touch with us, we're coming down to the last hour or so of the race, 63 minutes to go across the line. And Kevin Estre has made the pass up into second, and he's not convinced that that is enough for him. Right up behind the leader now, Nick Tandy, second or so further back. So it's Garcia, Estre, Tandy. What a trio they are. Corvette, Porsche, Corvette. Well, they say it only takes 2 cars to make a race. We've got 3 in the class, and they're all in with a shout here, Jeremy, in this last hour and 2 minutes.
Yeah, very much so. This is really getting interesting now, and Antonio Garcia, he's going to have his work cut out if he's going to stay ahead and potentially win this motor race, because he's got a very fired up Kevin Estre behind him. And coming into this round, this is Antonio Garcia. He's won here 3 times in the last 5 years here, 16, 17, and of course last year with Jordan Taylor. So trying to keep that streak going and tie up the championship in the best possible way by winning a race. But he's certainly got, Kevin Estre has a very different plan for the final 1 hour, and 2 minutes of this race.
So, battle at the front of the field is on. In GTD, Frank Pereira leads from Lawrence Vantour, and then Bill Oberlin in third position, and they're together on the track as well, please. Very much indeed. Let's just keep that one going as it is for the moment, as they drop down to the hog pen. To come across the line, there'll be just over an hour and 1 minute to go. Flash of the lights by Lawrence Vantour, so that's obviously going to give him an extra 15 miles an hour down the straight. No, it won't. And I'm pretty certain Frank Pereira knows you're there, to be honest, Lawrence. Here comes Oberlin, sitting right in behind. Brian Sellers is about another 2 seconds further back, as he tries to close this gap. Now, Nick Tandy not able to go with the guys in front, and he's on new tyres, remember. Shea, remind me, I think Estra took new tyres as well, didn't he?
Correct, but Garcia just took a splash of fuel.
Right, so what's going on here? It's Tandy's pace. Well, that's a couple of tenths off last time around. I didn't see any contact on that restart, but it was, as Jeremy said, a bit elbows out. So try and get a good look at that Corvette number 4 the next time it comes around. Top 3 absolutely together. It could be that Tandy was just taking a bit of time to bring the Michelins up to temp and pressure, because he's right back there now, Jeremy.
Yeah, he certainly is, and gosh, this is going to be a tremendous battle, I think, between this trio. I think they're probably going to need another pit stop as well before the end of this race, unless there is another full course caution. So that adds a little bit of intrigue as well. Number 3 team, they've already had their miscue on pit lane, so won't be looking for another one, that's for sure.
Side by side as they go past the Lexus. And
the class and therefore of the race in GTLM.
Well, I'm being told that Tandy was hit by both the Corvette and the number 79 WeatherTech car. It doesn't seem to have slowed him for the moment. He's right back on it. And Shea Adam has news from Gradient Racing. Shea?
I am so relieved to be able to say that Mario Farnbacher is okay. He's been checked and released from the infield care center. He's back with the team and said he doesn't know what happened. It just was a loud bang, and then the car would not slow down. So, unfortunate day for Gradient, but best news of all, Mario's okay.
Yeah, very good. Awful to happen at any time of the season. Coming towards the end of the season, it's never good. You want to finish off a season well. We wish them the best. Bit of work to be done on that. The bodywork from the front ended up by the rear wheel, and they won't really know what that damage is until they get that car back and start stripping it down. So we wish Gradient all the best after that nasty incident. I think it was a strange one for Mario. He doesn't make mistakes. Not infallible, of course. No driver is. It's just the odd way that car went off without any retardation whatsoever, and the wiggle as soon as he braked when he went into 14. We'll get, I'm sure, that team's very open, as indeed they all are, up and down the IMSA pit lane, and if they find out, I'm sure we'll get to find out as well. Meantime, the battle at the front of GTD has been turned up to gas mark 9, and the afterburners have been lit. And by the way, Brian Sellers is closing down on the top 3 now, and he's taken about 7/10 of a second out of them in the last lap or so, and now he's under 2 seconds behind, or just on 2 seconds behind.
it was just that last lap. It was his fastest lap of the race actually for that #1 car of Brian Sellers in that fourth position at the moment. He's got a big long train of cars behind him. So with Jack Hawksworth, Jeff Westphal, Ross Gunn, Patrick Long, Daniel Morad, Alex Rivera, all in a row behind him. Trying to shake him off. Meanwhile, the two leaders, the Corvette and the Porsche, Antonio Garcia and Kevin Estre, they also turned their best laps of the race last time around, a 1:41.6 for Antonio Garcia. But Nick Tandy, he has set the fastest lap of the race on the previous time, a 1:41.3.
So back to green flag for a wee while now. Things getting back up to temperature. Kevin Estre goes from a very long way back into turn one to try and take the lead away from Antonio Garcia in the #3 Chevy Corvette. Doesn't get that one done. He's in the tough position, isn't he, of defending and attacking at the same time. Into the pit lane from the lead of GRT. This is Frank Pereira. Didn't stop at that last full course yellow, but with 56 minutes to go, Adam, he might be able to go from here.
Yeah, he should be good to make it to the end with 56 minutes to go. Fuel and tires for Frank Pereira in that number 19 Brasser Racing Lamborghini. Now, this team has a podium on the air, but it was without Frank. That was at Belle Isle when Frank was unavailable to drive. Still looking for his first top 10 finish of the year in that car. Let's see what happens now that Vantor and Opel have been released. Clean stop from Brasser. Away goes the Lambo.
And at the front of the field overall, Jeremy, the pace is heating up even further.
Indeed, two more personal best laps there for #3 and number 79. And even then, they're not pulling away from Nick Tandy, who was quicker than both of them, in actual fact, on that last lap. So this is just a tremendous battle that's waging out front here. And they are going to need to make another pit stop before the end of this race. The question is, who blinks first? For number 19 team, yes, they can get to the end from here. So if there's a full course caution, that would be in the favour of the number 19 car, except for the fact that if there is another full course caution, everybody else in GTD probably won't need to make a pit stop. So this is a fascinating contest that is unfolding.
I wonder if they can. What do you reckon? 54 minutes, it's tight. It is tight, particularly here. Mark Miller was talking about anything from just over an hour down to sometimes 47 to 50 minutes. Well, we're right in the middle of that kind of window now for the GRT Grasser Lamborghini. They've dropped down to 15th overall. Adam?
Westphal is in the pits. We've got our second pit caller. This is the 39 Carbon with Peregrine Audi. Jeff Westphal staying aboard, but he is getting 4 new Michelins, and he should not need as much fuel as Pereira did, since his last pit stop came at the end of that yellow. So interesting that they gave him fuel only, I would imagine, at that pit stop, but a long tire change. Losing time now, as also into the pit lane comes the 44 Magnus Racing with Archangel Acura, Andy Lally. Fuel only for Andy, having just taken on new tires.
Right.
Again, the reasons here, they don't want to be caught out by a full course caution. For those contenders that have made the stops, number 39, 44, that were in that lead train, so to speak, they're not looking at the championship. They're just trying to win this race. And so that is why they came in earlier rather than the leaders. It could be very interesting to see which of the leaders, the championship contenders, is the first to blink. Because if there was another full course caution, they could probably get there without needing that stop. That's what makes it so interesting.
We're back to that old analogy that I often use of the athletics commentary and the stagger unwinding in the 4x400 metres relay. Well, we're right into that at the moment, because we're not really sure how this is going to unwind. At the front of the field, it's much easier. We reckon all of these cars have got to stop. And here comes Estre again, trying to use the traffic to his advantage. They're up behind Frank Pereira in that green GRT Grasser Lamborghini, and it's a bit of hip and shoulder on the leader, and he's gone through. Forceful, very forceful indeed, paid traded. And Estre goes through the lead, and Garcia drops to third as Nick Tandy nips through and becomes the best placed Corvette. Porsche from 2 Corvettes now. That was just coming into the snake where we saw Bill Auberland make the pass earlier on, but that was with the help, at least no fighting from the Lamborghini, and now, well, live by the hip and shoulder, die by the hip and shoulder, because Nick Tandy says, you do that to my teammate, I'm going to do the same to you, and ushers the Porsche off the road on the exit of Oak Tree. So now we have Corvettes back to 1 and 2, but it's Tandy ahead of Garcia. So two very forceful bits of driving there that I know will be being looked at, Jeremy. Coming out of 5 and up into 6. Actually, do you know, I've seen that again, and that was a bit cleaner than I thought from the Porsche. There was a little bit of contact, but he got a brilliant run off the corner, no doubt, Jeremy, spot on. But then Tandy was pretty uncompromising as he dived through at Oak Tree, on the exit of Oak Tree. Pereira in the way, but not in the way, if that makes any sense. But I think it just took Estra's concentration there, Jeremy.
Yeah, yikes. It was certainly a forceful move there. There was sort of a gap there, wasn't there, for Nick Tandy, and he reckons it was, and he took it. Let's have another look at that one.
Got to be so careful, haven't you? You always say if you're the car on the outside, you've got to leave room for the car on the inside. But surely that goes the other way. If you're the car on the inside, you've got to leave room for the car on the outside as well. So I could see that going either way, if I'm honest, or not at all. But I tell you what, I bet it's fired Kevin Estra up. We're going to be the beneficiaries of that, Jeremy, aren't we?
Yeah. Yeah, certainly race control is definitely going to be having a look at that one, though, I believe.
I'd be surprised if they don't. When there's any kind of contact that results in a pass, even, you know, sometimes the right call is no call. You've heard us say that before on IMSA Radio and IMSA TV. Well, they'll have a look at it. I'm sure they will. Meantime, play the Jaws music. Bill Oberlin is closing in on Lawrence Van Tour for the lead in GT Daytona. And in behind now in 3rd is Brian Sellers. 4th is Jack Hawksworth in the number 14 Lexus. And 5th, Ross Gunn in the number 23 Aston Martin, working his way back up towards a championship winning position. As it stands right now, with the Lamborghini only in 3rd, the Aston Martin is winning the championship. But if that Lamborghini was to get to the head of the field and Ross Gunn stayed where he was, then it would not. So we're going to have to keep an eye on all of those positions. I don't know where to look, Jeremy.
No, you're absolutely right. Thank goodness there's only 2 classes here. But this is why we have these GT Challenge races from Michelin, and they are absolutely sensational. This has been a great race, and it's going to continue to be so. Bill Oberlin, by the way, you just mentioned, he just said his best lap of the race last time around, the 45.2, 45.3 of Lawrence Van Tour, who certainly has this race under control, I think, right now, depending on the final pit stops, if they need them. Also setting his best lap this time around, Patrick Long in the number 16 Wright Motorsports Porsche. He's in the 6th position at the moment. He turned a 145.5 as well as same, almost identical to Bill Oberlin.
Jeremy Shaw in the Hagerty Global Broadcast Centre. Shea Adam is our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock reporter. Still to come today, Porsche Carrera Cup North America. We'll have that live for you. Race 1 of 2 this weekend. Sound and vision, whether you're in the States or further afield. No blocks, no brakes, flag to flag. Jeremy and I getting excited about flat 6 engined racing cars. Difficult for me, I have to say. Not difficult for Jeremy either, because the racing's been cracking this year. Last 5 races of the year, and first one of 2 this weekend comes up straight after our Michelin post-race tech this evening.
Fastest lap of the race there by Kevin Estra, this time in the Porsche, a 141.014. That is 3/10 quicker than the fastest lap from last year that was set by Nick Tandy, of course, who was one of the Porsche factory drivers last year, now switched camps to Corvette racing. Now that record was set back in 2019 by Earl Bamber, also in a Porsche. These cars work well here. A 140.6.
Shea Adam has been crunching some numbers and watching race control. Let's do the race control report first of all, Shea.
No further action, car 4 and car 79. So they did not review the car 3 and 79, but they did look closer at that Tandy Estra moment, and they decided, nah, that's all racing. As far as pit stops go, we're definitely going to need more stops from GTD. We've got the 88 Team Hardpoint Porsche in the pit lane now. Captain Lake brought it in for the 7th position. The leaders, the front 6, as they are right now, have been out on the racetrack for 30 minutes and 30 seconds. 46 minutes and 10 seconds left to go means that there is no way they can stretch the fuel tank. I don't care if you're Richard Westbrook with your pink fluffy bunny slippers. Not going to happen in this one.
Thank you, Shea. VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock. And 45, call it 46 minutes to go. And the battle for second place has reignited, and through into second, Kevin Estra in the Porsche. 2.6 seconds the gap to the leader. So Estra immediately pulls away from Antonio Garcia. Now the question is, Jeremy, can he catch Nick Tandy?
Curious how Garcia fell away from Nick Tandy, who just turned his best lap of the race, by the way, of 41.21 last time around. So that number 14, that was a great lap, and he's certainly going to have his work cut out. But it's a fascinating motor race that is still unfolding here. 45 minutes remaining.
So let's just take a little breath and try and run down what we're having a look at. I'm just trying to see who has stopped and who hasn't stopped. Well, Catherine Legg has just pulled in to the pits, so at number 88 Hardpoint car, when that comes back out again, that should be able to go to the end. And who else has just stopped? The 28 Daniel Morad car's just stopped. That's the Michael De Quesada started that Mercedes. That's just stopped, and in comes Antonio Garcia.
Huh.
You weren't expecting that, Shea, were you?
I was not expecting it so soon, but the thing I'm interested in, John, they have a new set of Michelin tires up on the wall. 9 sets for the weekend for the GTLM competitors, but Antonio not taking new tires on that last pit stop when everyone came in under the caution. He took fuel only on that occasion. Let's see, we're waiting for the left rear Michelin to be changed and the right front. New left rear goes on. It tightens, excellent. Carbon swap the air jacks away. It goes a little bit of a wait as the tire change was still going on after the fuel nozzle had been detached from the car, but now Antonio is gone to the end.
Yeah, and presumably there, Jeremy, what the thinking is there, they've made their last stop first because they can go 44 minutes in that car to the end.
Indeed, and they've just been passed by number 79 car, so they're back in the trade in any case, so really nothing to lose. Come in, make your stop, try and make use of these fresh tyres, turn some quick laps. There's number 79 car off the road, trying to get past some of the GTD traffic.
Exit turn 1 into turn 2. And they're back up with them again. This is on the back straight, up towards Catherine Legg, who is second of the cars that have made their last stop in GTD. Daniel Morad, I reckon, is the leading car who is definitely fueled to the end in the number 28 Mercedes AMG GT3. And Estra pulls to the right-hand side. Catherine Legg, not fighting that, different class, of course, down the curving front straight. And the gap now between Tandy and Estra has gone right out, and now we've got to see what pace is left in these cars. 6.8 seconds.
Yeah, wow.
That's all traffic, and that little mistake, Jeremy, that's how tight it is. Yeah,
just caught him at the wrong time, didn't you, going out of 4 and 5, wasn't it, and go on the grass road road, costing some more time, but certainly a great few laps there from Nick Tandy to work his way through them.
Nice time to stop for Antonio Garcia for a number of reasons. Yes, he'd lost position, but also just about the right amount of time to do 4 tyres and put enough fuel in to get back to a full tank. Again, shortest stop possible, in and out, thank you very much, and let's get back on the track. And then if something does happen up front, plus actually the 3 car, well, he's just had to fight his way through a little bit of traffic, but he's going to come into some clear road as soon as he clears the number 12 Zach Veach Lexus, which he should do in a moment or two's time. The problem is that Nick Tandy at the front of the field has got getting on for a quarter of a lap of clear road ahead of him. And the next set of cars that he's going to catch up with are the battling Hawks with Gun and Pat Long train of cars in the 14 Lexus, the Aston Martin number 23 and the Porsche number 16, the blue car. 41 minutes to go, and both of these classes, Jeremy, living up to what we expected. This is going to go right to the end. Talked about it with Mark Miller, 2 hours 40 minutes. People say it's not an endurance race, strategy doesn't play its part. Well, as today, we've seen a couple of different strategic tacks being taken, and at the moment we still don't know which ones are going to come out on top.
We don't. The top 6 in GTD have not yet made their final pit stop. Again, they are at this stage hoping that there's a full course caution. They're out in front, and if there is a caution, they might well be able to get to the end. And if not, they're just going to run as hard as they can. It's a flat-out race between these two. Brian Sellers had got back within a second again as he crossed the line this time. Is he within a second? Yeah, I think maybe he is just about. No, not quite. But it's certainly a fascinating battle between these. The top 3 are pulled away and are pulling away from Jack Hawksworth, who has got his mirrors filled by both Ross Gunn in the Aston Martin 23 and Patrick Long in the Wright Motorsports Porsche car number 16.
Yeah, and I suspect that, Jeremy, if these guys at the front, if they don't get a yellow, they're not going to get to the end, so they'll just do a splash with no tyres, and that's going to be it for a decent position for them, because just coming down the pit lane here, they're going to drop down a long way, and everybody who's already done their stops, who've got the benefit of new tyres, are actually turning some pretty decent laps.
Indeed. Frank Pereira has just turned his best lap of the race. I don't think he's not in contention. He's quite a long way behind even Andy Lally, because, of course, that number 19 Grasser GR2 race from Lamborghini, that led at the restart, but because it hadn't pitted during the previous caution, needed a lot more fuel than did, for example, Andy Lally and all of the other cars that pitted over the course of the last half a dozen laps or so.
Change of position there as Catherine Legg has just been passed by Jeff Westphal. That is for 9th position in class. Jeff had been chasing Catherine around, so that's the 88 Porsche dropping down a position, the 39 grey and bright green Carbon Audi going up a position. Both of those cars have stopped. Oh! Estra's off at the oak tree, and he's stuck in the mud, and he's got reverse, kept the revs down, but there goes the victory for Kevin Estra and for WeatherTech. It's a Corvette 1-2 with 38 minutes to go. Now, has he done damage? There's damage to the left front bodywork, but more importantly will be, A, has that pushed onto the left front tyre, and B, has he done any suspension damage? I suppose C, you've got to ask yourself, did he jump or was he pushed? He was being...
No, he would have been on his own.
Oh yes, he was chasing down Tandy. He'd gone past Garcia, hadn't he? Yeah, good point, Jeremy.
Yeah, Garcia's been in the pits. He's a long way behind. So this is going to be very, very costly now for Kevin Estra.
So now...
Number 4 car, though, takes advantage of that, comes into the pits to make its final stop.
Very smart indeed from Corvette Racing. Nick Tandy in the pit lane, Now, Estra's gone through and actually has taken the lead of the race. But of course, well, okay. He owes us a stop. 36 minutes to go, and he's already been in that car for 43 minutes, albeit with 3 laps of caution at the beginning. So not a chance, as we said earlier on, 4 laps of yellow actually at the beginning of his stint. So Estra due in, maybe he'll get...
He could go quite a long way. The question is how long he elects to stay out.
Well, the longer he goes, the less time he has to stop if there's no damage, and if he's not going to put tyres on, you know, I suppose, well, actually that's not true, is it?
No,
the longer he goes, the less, the fuel will be the same. You just do a time stop, but the car will be lighter. If you don't put it in now, if you wait till the last possible moment, the car will be lighter at the end. I suppose that's the only thing that you would do. Now, let's see if we can work out what happened. We just lost it on the way in to turn 11. Took too much pace into the first left-handed part. The back end started to slide, that polar moment of inertia that mid and rear engine cars have, and didn't even take too much of the curb on the inside, but the car just drifted out. And as soon as the left-hand Michelins hit the dirt on the exit of turn 11 before he turned into 12, that was it. And he's in the pit lane. Shea Adam with a VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock report, the new leader into the pit lane. He'll give that up, of course. Shea?
He's missing his mirror, Kevin Estra, with left side, just a tiny bit of damage. As you said, the nose punched in a tiny little bit. Nothing into the wheel well, though. That's the good news. 4 new Michelin tires going on this car. Won't be able to see anyone who comes up on his left side. They're doing right side tires as well. But, they broke the air jack before the right side tires were on. The fuel nozzle came out. They should have just done left side tires only. That would have been perfect timing. But no, day goes from bad to worse as this car is going to finish in 3rd unless something happens.
You're spot on, Shea. That was a perfect time for 2 tyre stop and to get him out. And indeed, Nick Tandy is just going up the hill now. The 2 Corvettes, just 3.4 seconds between them now. And in the battle for GT Daytona, Lawrence Vantour in the plaid Porsche, which, let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, started having not set a qualifying time after being excluded for an infringement in qualifying, started at the back of the field by 2 cars and is now leading the race. 13th position, lucky for them at the moment. Jeremy Shaw now leading the race. Unlucky for him is he's got Bill Oberlin behind him.
Yeah, good news and bad news, I guess, isn't it? For him, but still 33 minutes remaining in this race, and the question is how long do the GTD leaders elect to stay out? We're pretty sure they need to make another pit stop. As we think through the 456 cars, it's going to be an awful lot of fuel save required otherwise, but Jack Hawkson certainly has fallen back at a pretty more than half a second a lap to 3 leaders, and he is keeping Ross Gunn and Patrick Long behind him while he does so. That's number 14 Lexus, currently running in 4th place in GTD.
It's been a good job by Lawrence Vantour, and he continues to lead GT Daytona. Coming down to half an hour, 30 minutes to go. Oberlin closing in on the brakes and the Liqui Moly BMW. New car for next year, of course, Jeremy, for a GT Daytona. Be the BMW M4 GT3. Very svelte looking machine.
Yeah, that's certainly going to be interesting, isn't it? And this car has been super successful all the way around the globe. The M6, but it is getting a little bit long in the tooth. But it's, or so it's Bill Oberlin, you could say, but we haven't doesn't slow eyes on now.
No, not at all.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I mean, he's still driving. He's driving as well as he ever has. Bill Oberlin. But this was the track, as Shea pointed out much earlier this afternoon. on which he took that record from Scott Pruitt for the most top-line American sports car wins. So he won this race last year, and he's trying to do so again. But this Laurens Vanthoor and Zach Robichon Pfaff Porsche car number 9, well, it's won 2 of the last 3 races. It was second last time out, 2 wins before that. So it's very much the form car at the moment.
And hello to Dries Vanthoor, who is tuned in Barcelona after the racing he's been doing there today. GT World Endurance Challenge, wasn't it? World Challenge Endurance, rather, at Barcelona. And Dries, I know, is watching and listening. Your bro's doing a canny job at the moment. Very good indeed. Down towards turn 1 again. I said this earlier in the week, but I did think the Porsches looked particularly well sorted around here in both of the classes, Jeremy, and they just don't seem to move around quite as much as some of the other cars. And I mean, obviously the drivers have got to drive them quite smoothly, but Oberlin's there now, target acquired in the BMW as they go out to turn 5 and up the Snick for their 68th time.
Indeed, and Brian Sellers just not quite able to stay with them at this stage. He's slipped back now a couple of seconds in that 3rd position, but Bill Oberlin, he wants past, doesn't he? I mean, these two, very much in the championship reckoning, no question about that. Currently in the overall GTD championship, it's the number 9 car that leads, but by just 20 points coming into this race as a result of that problem yesterday during the qualifying session for the number 9 car. The Aston Martin is another what's that, 2501, so 67 points back in 3rd position. The BMW is 53 points behind the Aston Martin. So all of these contenders very much thinking championship. Very much they are in the mix.
What about Porsche? Keys to the race, of course, championship positions along with the track position we talked about in our Michelin Countdown to Green. Half an hour to go, time for you to think about some quick questions for us as we wrap up the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship afternoon, although not the racing, because we have Porsche Carrera Cup, but we will have a short edition of the Michelin post-race tech. So at IMSA Radio, hashtag Michelin PRT for any questions, points arising, or general observations. The original user editorial show, user-driven editorial show, and we'll thank you for your company on that in advance. And then a quick turnaround for the first of 2 races this weekend for Porsche Carrera Cup North America, presented by Visit Cayman Islands, which I am thoroughly looking forward to seeing the times that these new cars have been putting in around there, around the VIR circuit. They have been exceptionally quick, and Sebastian Priaulx very quick again this weekend, one of 3 young drivers, and with his Calimos Road and Race teammate Kai van Berlo, Parker Thompson as well, top 3 in the championship at the moment. Some great driving this year from the whole field, and they look and sound fantastic, those cars. Still to come. Before that, we've got a couple of classes here, Jeremy, to finalise and find out who's going to stand on the podium. Estra now fighting his way through the battle for GTD. This could get spicy as well.
Yeah. This is a tremendous motor race. There's still only just over a second between the 2 Corvettes out at the front of the field as well. So they are, turning very, very similar lap times. Kevin Estre, with those couple of off-course excursions, he's now pretty much out of it. He's a full half a minute behind the 2 Corvettes as he works his way through the GTD leaders that are 1 lap behind the GTLM cars at this stage in the race. But those 2 are super closely matched, aren't they, in GTD. The Pfaff Porsche, though, he just got a little bit of an advantage there with the GTLM Porsche right behind him as well. Now in between himself and the second place car of the BMW.
A couple of people, including Ian McCarthy and Nigel Dobby, have tweeted at IMSA Radio. The left wing end plate is missing from the Porsche number 79 as well. You can easily see it's missing because it's bright red normally on the GT Le Mans cars. Yep, absolutely right. As a consequence of that run into the tyres at Oak Tree, the corner that he's just gone around. Through he goes. Heading over the top of the ground. And now it's that gap now, 35 seconds to the leader, 33 seconds to Antonio Garcia. Two Corvettes, Jeremy, lapping in almost in lockstep at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely right. Nothing to choose between those two. 42.2 last time out. So second off his best lap for Nick Tandy, but almost identical lap turn by Antonio Garcia in second position.
Well, still a little bit of tactics to play out with the top cars not having yet made their stops, their final stops in GT Daytona. So Vanto stretching away for a moment, got a second on Bill Auberlen from Turner. All of a sudden the intervention of the 79 didn't hurt, in all fairness. There's something moving around on the front of the leading car as well. The number 3 Corvette looks like maybe the onboard camera or the part of the front end that holds the pitot tube has been broken, and it's just wafting around a little bit. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It is the mount for the pitot tube. A couple of the measuring devices right in the middle, just above the Corvette wings on the front of that car. Just caught my eye a little while ago, actually. I meant to mention it, but then, being a bear of small brain, I completely forgot about it. So that's waving in the air at the moment, and the pitot tube's not doing the measuring that they would normally be doing, so not getting the data. However, that's not slowing down Nick Tandy at all at the moment, Jeremy.
It isn't, is it? No, not much slows down Nick Tandy, particularly when he's got the centre victory. Had won the last two races, both on the West Coast at VIRginia Raceway in Laguna Seca, and then a couple of weeks ago at Long Beach, and trying to make it 3 in a row. And here now is the first of the leading contenders in GTD to blink. That's number 1 car onto pit lane with, 24 minutes remaining.
I think this might be just Ria's share going on to this.
You are correct. They expected that they would need about 10 seconds worth of fuel. Cars off the air jacks, it was 14:15. Having trouble getting the car moving again with slick tires. But yes, rear tires for Brian Sellers. Also into the pit lane, Ross Gunn with the Heart of Racing Aston Martin, and Patrick Long in the blue Wright Motorsport Porsche. Patrick jumps the Aston Martin in the pit stop. Let's see when Lawrence, Bill, and Jack all elect to come in, because those are our next 3 stoppers.
Thank you, Shea, for that VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock report. Leader going through GT Daytona traffic, including the Aston Martin number 23, which is battling with the Allegra Motorsports car at turn number 1, and the Aston 27 goes off. That's Rivera has gone off, Jeremy.
Yeah, and he caught right up to the number 28 car, Daniel Morad, trying to make a move there into turn 1. That's not worked out for Alex. He'd lost some time there, but he had been fast. He'd made up a fair bit of ground on Daniel Morad, and it was right on his tail and trying to make that pass. But in the meantime, the number 1 car is back out on the racetrack. Where is he compared? He was quite a long way ahead, number 23 and 16. He pulled out over 9 seconds, as we see now the race leader in GTD onto pit lane as well. So that'll put Bill Auberlen now into the lead of the race. He has not yet made his final pit stop.
In comes the FAF number 9 car from the lead of the GTD class. Yeah.
Left side tires, they're doing right side tires, 4 tires stop. Wow, they're putting a lot of fuel into this car for Larry. 14, 15, 16, 17 seconds so far stationary in the box. Jack Hawksworth comes in. They're doing left side tires for the 14 Lexus only. That was perfect timing as to when the fueling was done. The car dropped off the air jacks and rolled away. Fast Motorsport, their pit stop time, time on the pit lane was 40.0 seconds. It was 38 seconds for Sellers, 38 seconds for Hawksworth. Let's see how this shakes out.
Out on the track, the number 9 up to speed is ahead of Brian Sellers as the FAF Porsche climbs the hill. Sellers just coming through to the bottom of the snake now. So they've made their stops. Oberlin still out there, yet to make his stop in the 96. Question is now, Jeremy, do they tough it out or do Turner come into the pit lane? If you were on the box, what would be your call to Oberlin?
Well, Bill, I asked Bill, what do you want to do? Do you want to come in? Yes, he's going to come in right now. Is a short answer. Because if it had gone full course yellow, then he would have been hung out to dry and would have gone all the way to the back of the pack. So Don Salama there and the team at Turner Motorsport making the right call there to bring Bill in. He doesn't want to be caught out by that yellow, and he will come in for final service now for that Turner Motorsport BMW.
Only for the Turner Motorsport BMW, though. Race control is going to take a look at that pit entry because Bill Oberlin actually went around Andy Lally, crossed over the multi-stripe lines to get in 13 seconds worth of fuel for the BMW. It's got a 107-liter tank, so it must have had...
Sure, here comes the FAF car. Here's the FAF car coming onto the front straight, and he's got out in front of it, so he has not given up the lead. Just ran over a bit of debris there, going down towards turn 1. I reckon that was about 11 seconds that the fuel hose was in. So the top 3 now in GTD, Oberlin for Turner Motorsport BMW, FAF Motorsport Porsche Lawrence Vantour in second, and Brian Sellers in third position. And they are fueled to the end. That is very interesting, but remember, it is new tyres for the 9, rear tyres, that's the Porsche, rear tyres for the Lamborghini, and no tyres for the BMW. I love it, Jeremy. Again, different strategies.
Yeah, brilliant. Really, really exciting stuff going on here. And I think that's a great call. It's certainly going to save him a lot of time. He's going to come out with a pretty handy lead. Plus, his tyres are still hot. He doesn't have to bring them up to temperature. We talked about how difficult it is on this track to bring cold tyres up to temperature because there's not a lot of grip here. And that was a very... should be okay with that one. Andy Lally, though, was pretty tardy coming onto the pit lane, which is surprising. He came across that coloured line there, didn't he? The stewards are going to be looking at that one for sure.
Yeah, waiting to see what race control say about that one. Just waiting for some confirmation, by the way, from Gradient about that issue for the crash for Mario Farnbacher earlier on. But, just waiting for that to be confirmed. So Oberlin leads.
Long way.
Yeah, what's that now? That looks like 7 or 8 seconds to me. And then it's quite tight. Brian Sellers, I'm very impressed. Brian Sellers is making the old fronts and the new rears work very well indeed. That sometimes really upsets the balance of a car. Meantime, at the front of the field, Garcia and Tandy together battling for the lead, and Shea Adam, Andy Lally coming into the pit lane there. That wasn't just coming in for its final stop quickly.
Nope, the Magnus with Archangel Racing Acura has gone behind the wall. Looks like we're not going to have an Acura finish this race today.
Right, thank you. Try and get some news on that. Lead battle then through the uphill S's, and it'll be traffic pretty much all the way for the next couple of laps at least. Just under, or just on 17 minutes to go here, Jeremy. And this really, I mean, this race, certainly at the front of either of the classes, it could be determined by a bit of lappery, somebody getting in the way, somebody putting a wheel in the wrong place.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. Certainly on that last lap, Antonio Garcia made up a fair bit of ground, so must have been traffic for the race leader Nick Tandy, and all of a sudden that gap went from 1.7 seconds to less than half a second. So he's going to put his head down again and try and build it up. Right ahead of him on the racetrack, though, are the two GTD leaders. They're almost 2 laps behind no, they are 2 laps behind already the GTLM cars as Nick Tandy goes past Brian Sellers. That is the 3rd place car in GTD.
So just trying to pick off where everybody is round the track. The number 96 BMW leads, and he's just coming through turn 5 now and heading up the Snake. Then it's the FAF Porsche and the number 1, that's the Lamborghini, and the 2 overall leaders are right there. In fact, they're in between the FAF Porsche, and they've just both gone by Brian Sellers. So race leader coming up to 2nd in GTD, heading up the climbing S's, and there's not really an easy way to get by there for Nick Tandy. He'll try and pop out and get the run into Oak Tree Turn, but that Porsche and Lawrence Vantour is very late on the brakes, but he should be able to power pass down the back straight. Station driving there by Tandy. He's having to use the slipstream of the Porsche. Little flash of the lights, not anything else other than to say, I am here and I will come. But that Porsche punches from the corners, from the centre out, Jeremy. Those GTD Porsches are really getting hooked up.
Yeah, they are. And the fleet on the straights as well, as we've seen already during this race. But Lawrence Vantour here, he's still got 7.8 seconds was the gap last time around. That was the lap on which Bill Oblin, it was his first flying out lap on this car. So we'll see that the gap is they come across the line this time between first and second in GTD. Don't get my timing to update. There is 6.9 seconds. So almost a second quicker was number 9 than the number 96. And we've got, what, 14 minutes remaining in this race. Number 9 car, by the way, stretching out now over Brian Sellers. He was he was a second and a half quicker on that last lap in the number 9 car than the number 1.
Yeah, and that's courtesy of 4 brand new Michelin tyres at the last stop, isn't it? I mean, take nothing away from Lawrence Vantour, but they've gambled and they've put the tyres on, and I think that's a decent gamble. Very decent gamble indeed. He's going to be pretty close. If he gets a clean run, he's going to be pretty close to Bill Oberlin. Now, getting close to Bill Oberlin and getting past Bill Oberlin when there's a win on the line, those are 2 very different things, Mr. Shaw.
Well, they are, certainly. There's no question about that. You're absolutely right. And I'm just looking to see what the margins would be in the championship as we stand at the moment. And the answer is not a lot. I think in the overall series right now, the number 9 team would extend its lead. It came in, remember, with a 20-point lead over the number 1 car into the race at the weekend, because they've made up points with those qualifying points, I think. So right now it'd be a 40-point lead, and the number 96 car, if it can maintain position now, would move ahead of number 23 Aston Martin on the 27.98, would be 70 points behind the 2nd place car in the championship, which is another 40 points behind the leader. That's if it were to end right now. But in the Sprint Cup Championship, the number 23 car still remains in control. If it can finish a couple of positions ahead of the number 1 car, it would still be good enough.
Don't forget, we've got Michelin Porsche Race Tech straight after this race. We'll run through the championship implications. We'll see if we can get a word with a few of the drivers. But it is a fairly short turnaround because we've got another race coming up this evening with the Porsche Carrera Cup North America. presented by Visit Cayman Islands. That comes up this evening as well. This afternoon, should I say? It'll be getting into early evening by the time we get that up. The doommongers of weather forecasting have so far been incorrect. They've not had to roll out a set of wet tyres. Yes, I know, hashtag blame Hindhaugh. If it does happen. 11.5 minutes to go. Corvette first and second, 0.8 of a second between them. 40 seconds further back is Kevin Estre. Oberlin by 5 from Vanthoor now. He's closing in. Heading towards the back of that white BMW. Remember, complete. Oh, and there's been a coming together, and it's two leaders that have come. No, it's the leader of the GTDs in the second place overall, and that's a turn 1, excuse me. And that's Oberlin coming together with Garcia, and Oberlin's got a right rear damage. It's a puncture from the damage from the contact. So drama with 10.5 minutes to go, and the race win has been snatched from Robbie Foley, from Turner Motorsport, and from Bill Oberlin. And there was contact between the number 96 BMW racing for the win in GTD, Antonio Garcia racing for the win for Corvette in GTLM.
So see if we can see what happened here. He dives to...
he's come from a long way back.
It's a long way back.
Oh, he hit the curb. Hit the inside curb. Garcia hit the inside curb. Came from a long way back. Oberlin gave him room, in fairness. And Garcia waited and then let off the brake. But as he was going down the inside, there's all kinds of debris, by the way, down there. Just clipped the inside curb with his right side Michelins. And that kicked the bright yellow Corvette sideways and hit the Luke Molly BMW. They both go around. It was a substantial clip as well, Jeremy, on the BMW, enough to flatten the tyre. There may be even more damage than that.
That was really straight. I mean, you know, it's a mistake by Antonio Garcia. He was falling back from Nick Tandy. He'd lost. He'd fallen back to. He'd lost another 0.3 on that previous lap to the race leader. So Tandy was looking good. He was just trying as hard as he possibly could. I think he just lost it under brakes. He just tried to carry too much speed. It's a tricky corner because you're turning and braking at the same time, and I think he just lost it.
I'm pretty certain that the right rear of the Corvette was the one that clipped the curb. Bizarrely, absolute desolation on the Turner pit wall.
That's really unfortunate.
Well, they were going to have a battle on their hands, but they were doing it, and obviously Oberlin was doing a great job. Shea Adam, race control, has looked at that incident.
No further action for that incident. So Turner Motorsport, 2 races back-to-back, no gratification from contact being taken out.
Yeah, there's not much point in pushing any blame. It's not going to affect anything in the race. I mean, I guess it could cost Antonio Garcia second place, but it would do nothing to Turner Motorsport BMW, whose race is now, hopes to win long gone. What a shame.
Bill Oberlin takes the car back out. As I say, he was going to have a battle on his hands. Now, this is interesting, of course, because Brian Sellers is now only 5.2 seconds away from the championship as it stands right now, with Ross Gunn in 5th position, 6th position. Wow. Now, 4.8 seconds back. Vanthoor with 4 new Michelins at the last stop. Sellers with only 2 on the rear of the Lamborghini number 1.
John, if the Madison Snow Brian Sellers car currently in second place finishes in second place. Then fifth position, which is where Ross Gunn is right now, in number 23, Aston Martin, would be good enough by 19 points. In actual fact, he could lose one more position, could Ross Gunn, and still have that position. But he's 9 seconds ahead of Daniel Moran, so he's fallen back just a little bit from Jack Hawksworth. Has that number 23 Aston Martin over the last lap or two, but that's just fine in terms of the Sprint Cup Championship.
And by the way, Bill Ovland's rejoined in 12th position in class. Wow. However, that time is coming down, and Brian Sellers has found some pace. Only 6.5 minutes to go. Under 5 seconds now between Vanthoor and Sellers. Vanthoor surely just stroking it home in the Pfaff plaid Porsche. But if Brian Sellers could catch and pass that Porsche, then he, Madison Snow and Paul Miller Racing would win the Sprint Cup.
That's right, and because Ross Gunn would have to catch Jack Hawksworth and pass him. If he's able to win the race, then that would mean the Sprint Cup Championship for the number 1 team would win it by 1 point.
No way.
20.
1 point.
No, it'd be more than that. It would be 11 points. Beg your pardon. 11 points. If the Aston finishes in 5th position where it is right now, and the number 1 car wins, then the Aston would need to finish 4th.
Well, we've seen all kinds of weird things happening. Antonio Garcia moving slowly at the moment, so has he now got problems as well. He's dropped a good 3 or 4 seconds last time around. Is he just stroking it to the finish? Only 5 minutes to go. Estra is well back in the WeatherTech car. Oh my goodness, that mistake from Estra now, Jeremy, is even more galling, because they would have been right amongst it.
Yes. And twice he was off the road, wasn't he, Estra?
Yeah, good point. Yeah, very good point.
But what an exciting race this has been. There's been all sorts of drama, has there not? Exactly what we expected coming into this weekend. It's not things haven't unfolded the way we expected, certainly, but it has been a tremendous motor race.
And now the gap between Vanthoor and Sellers is down under 4 seconds. 3.7 to be exact. Time is running out, but you've got to give Brian Sellers his due. He is pushing very hard indeed. The leader in class, the number 9 Pfaff Porsche, is where on the track? He's just going across the start-finish line now, and there is the number 1 crossing the line now. There's no cars between them as they go down to turn 1. They've got the leader, the second place car rather, in front of them, and Garcia is not turning the lap times that he was. Magnificent. What a great event again, Jeremy, here. These Michelin GT challenges work so well.
There's a battle for what is now 3rd position between Patrick Long and Jack Hawksworth, who's got a kind of a second wind in the closing stages of this race. He'd been falling back from the leaders before the final pit stop, and he'd been holding station, if you remember, ahead of number 23 and the 16 after those pit stops. So the number 16 got ahead of both of them, and now Hawksworth is trying to make it back. Meanwhile, not too far, in fact very close behind him now, is Ross Gunn in that Aston Martin. He's been told, I'm sure, that Brian Sellers is catching Laurens Vanthoor, and if he was able to pass Laurens Vanthoor, then Gunn would need to make up a position to win the Sprint Cup title.
No way.
Wobbling, big lap down.
Yeah. So 2.5 minutes to go. Still scraps going on for podium positions in GTD. 3rd is still up for grabs, and Ross Gunn's not that far away either, you know. This could all end in triumph or tragedy. Those three cars separated by about a second as they go on to what will be their penultimate lap. At the front of the field, Nick Tandy's got a comfortable 17.5 second lead over his teammate Antonio Garcia, and Kevin Estre is not now closing down on Garcia. That gap has stayed around about 20 seconds. At the front of the field in GTD, Lawrence Vanto, Pfaff Motorsports Porsche, 3.5 seconds from Brian Sellers, so has just quelled the tide a little bit, maybe not 3.3. White flag next time for the leader, yeah. And the question is, where are those other cars battling for position in relation to the number 4 car? Who's coming to the top of the roller coaster now, leading the race. So we'll see the white flag in about 150 yards, less than that now. This battle for third will continue right to the flag. There's the white flag for Nick Tandy. 4 car that he shares with Tommy Milner started on pole, lost the top spot pretty much at the exit of turn 1, and from then on it has been a drag down street fight. Saturday night's all right for fighting, certainly has been this afternoon. All of the 3 GT-LM cars have led this motor race and look like they could take the victory at various stages. Here comes Estre to cross the line in 3rd position and start his last lap, and that battle for 3rd is what he's going by at the moment. Sellers is down under 3 seconds. Hawksworth
to the inside.
dives through on the inside. What a manoeuvre that was on the number 16 of Pat Long. And here comes the 23, Heart of Racing now. Got to be careful here, Ross Gunn. You do not need to end up off the road here. At the moment, driving to the Sprint Cup for Heart of Racing. Does not need to pass that Porsche at the moment, but where is Brian Sellers and Pfaff Motorsport? Answer, they are at the Oak Tree corner. Vanto turns in. The leader coming through the hog pen for the final time. Tandy and Milner. Another victory for the number 4 car. From pole to the win. That doesn't tell the story at all, does it? If you just looked at qualifying and the race results, not at all. Vanto chased to the line by Brian Sellers in what will be for Paul Miller Racing a vain attempt to take the Sprint Cup. But from 13th, after not having a qualifying time, to the win for the number 9 Pfaff Porsche in GTD. Sellers goes through barely 2.5 seconds behind. It's going to be Hawksworth, I think, in 3rd position on the box. Yes, it is. As Pat Long holds on to 4th after losing that 3rd place on the last lap at the first corner. Ross Gunn goes through in 5th position, but that, by our unofficial counting, will be enough to give the 23 Heart of Racing team the Sprint Cup. Magnificent stuff. Under review, the incident between Pat Long and Jack Hawksworth. So that is not over by any stretch of the imagination. And also coming together between the AMG number 28 and the number 39 Audi that left that number 28 car taking a shortcut, and Daniel Morad for Allegra having to go down the grass. That was right at the end of the race as well, Jeremy.
Yeah, that was the battle for 6th on the final lap, John. You're absolutely right. I think the Aston's going to get it. It's going to come from behind on that trio to the front.
What an extraordinary race. Hawksworth was coming from a long way back. Was he there? He'll say he was. Pat Long will say he wasn't. Very, very tight indeed.
It was open, that's for sure.
Yeah, sure. He got his foot in. I'll give him that. That could go either way as well. Under review at the moment.
Motorsports, so that extends their lead in the overall GTD championship. They came into this race with a 20-point advantage over Brian Sellers and Madison Snow. They will extend that then by another 30 as a result of this win today. A great win again. 3 out of 4 now for Laurens Vanthoor and Zach Robichon.
Tandy and Miller win for Corvette from their Corvette teammates Kevin Estre and Cooper McNeil in 3rd position. It's Pfaff from Paul Miller Racing, Porsche from Lamborghini, from Lexus, from Porsche, from Aston. What a drive back as well for the number 27 Harter Racing team, Jeremy.
Yeah, absolutely right. With that make up 2 positions on the last lap. They've had a difficult race, but a very, very strong race for number 27 car to come home in just 1 position behind the number 23.
Well, what a fabulous race. We're going to have a very short turnaround because Porsche Carrera Cup North America comes next. So probably the best idea for us to hand the public address system here at VIR back to our PA colleagues. Stay tuned to RS2 for Michelin post-race tech, hashtag Michelin PRT at IMSA Radio. The celebrations will continue long into the night here. We'll wrap this one up with Michelin post-race tech next, exclusively live on RS2.